Well, we're going live now, and I just got to give it a second to spool up, and the meeting is yours.
Okay, sorry. So we're ready now, right? Not.
Oh, yep, we're ready to go.
Sorry, I didn't know if that was the.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Nope, you're good. All right. Welcome everybody to the Lyon Township Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting of February 17th, 2021. I will call the meeting to order at 7:03, and we will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Solo performance there tonight.
When the flag came up, I couldn't unmute.
That's okay. All righty. On that note, we will do our roll call. Robert Swain, present in Lyon Township.
Lynn Turk Reynolds, present in Lyon Township.
Aaron
New, present in Lyon Township with my children, apparently, who are yelling throughout the house. Sorry.
It'll work. And Chris Schecker is apparently rebooting his computer. So hopefully he will be with us in a moment. We also have some guests tonight. Jason from DBAT and Nicole from Republic. We will get to them in a moment here. But first off, the approval of the January minutes. Anyone have any corrections or?
No, I reviewed them. They looked okay to me. Aaron, you okay with them?
Okay. So somebody want to move to approve those?
What was the date of our last meeting?
January 20th.
I move to approve the our meeting minutes from January 20th.
Okay.
Second.
Very good. So motion by Lynn, second by Aaron. All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Minutes are approved. And now for tonight's agenda. I would add here so that Nicole doesn't have to stick around too long. I'm going to put presentations 7B for Republic. And I do have some updates on the DNR grants, and I guess just do we want to just discuss that during the spot I was going to give an update, or I guess I'm considering putting it as a new business item. Anyone strong preferences there?
I think we should make it new business.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So in that case, we will have new business item A, or I guess I can just do grants in general as the topic and not leave it specifically to the DNR ones. So I guess I will make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, motion by me, second by Aaron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, agenda approved. And at 7:07, Chris, can you say you're here and where you are?
I apologize. Yes, I'm here.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My house in South Lyon Township.
There we go. Perfect. All righty. Any general announcements and communications? Okay, if nobody else has anything there, I will, I guess, take this as a moment to communicate that we will no longer have a one of our planners from McKenna present at each of our meetings. They will still be available on an as needed basis, but they won't be attending our every meeting just because apparently the same change has been made for the DDA. I just got this update from Brian very recently and haven't had a chance to talk to John about it, so I don't really have any more details or reasoning for you, but just wanted to let you all know so you're not sitting here wondering where Chris is. Madigan Chris.
Well, that raises a lot of red flags, Robert. One, what do they mean by as needed? Two, who's going to be the voice of for us at a board meeting? I can understand why they wouldn't do it at DDA. They have their own budget. They have to, they could do things in that within their own board anyways. But what about for us? And the other question that raises is that for what reason was our board cut? I don't know. These are just things that popped into my head just a second ago as I listened to that.
No, valid questions. Unfortunately, I don't have answers right now. For the time being, I'm just.
You said this was an email sent by Brian?
Yes.
Was it shared to everybody or just you?
This was just to me as a making sure we knew. So we'll have some follow-up discussions, but
I guess as a courtesy to this board, what time did that email come in today?
I don't have it in front of me. Of course, I lost it now. I got it yesterday afternoon. It slipped past me. I followed up with Brian today, but regardless, for now, I would say we can continue to send them things, and otherwise, I guess our main point is just to go to John with things in the absence of being told something otherwise. So we'll try and proceed and make the best of things for the moment, and we'll figure things out here.
As part of figuring things out, the streamline of communication for what we're going to do or finding out. I mean, that's just, wow. I mean, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I obviously understand why I'm asking.
Yeah, no, I totally understand where you're coming from. I don't have any more information at this point.
Okay.
So, if nobody else has any other announcements and communications, we will move into the presentations. And so we've got DBAT up first. So Jason, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, and then we can get into what you came to talk about.
Sure. So Jason Cornelier, I live in South Lyon, Greeno Township side. Been around for about 10 years now. We opened up DBAT, which is on 10 Mile in front of Kroger there in the old Rite Aid building, November 2019. And since then we've had just, 60 some odd teams, and we even pulled a stat yesterday. We've had 1.2 million balls hit in our cages. So things are going okay post-COVID. COVID was fun, but we're getting there. So So part of, I guess part of what prompted this conversation, I apologize, I didn't bring anything formal, but I'm happy to. But this is more of an introductory conversation to see what the appetite would be for sponsorship or some sort of partnership on the fields that are in Lyon Township. So one of the goals that we have for, let's supposed to be for 2020, but now for 2021, is we're trying to turn this into a destination, in a destination spot for tournaments. So in the baseball world, there's these tournaments bring in a ton of revenue for local townships, cities, et cetera. They're not exactly easy to run, but we have a lot of experience doing it. Myself, my business partners have a pretty organized way of doing that. We've looked into kind of hotels in the area, what we could support, and actually we're set up really good for this to kind of be a central location to run tournaments all summer if possible. So what we're looking for is, we're not looking to steal time from anybody. We're not looking to compete with Junior League or anything like that. I get it. We've tried working with them as well. All we're looking to do is work to keep these fields as pristine and active as possible. Maybe it's by sponsorship. Maybe it's by, I don't know what that looks like, but some sort of sponsorship. And honestly, we're even happy to help, dole out space, make sure everyone gets even time. All that. So I'm not sure what that looks like. We were just looking for some way to work more closely with the township and the Parks and Rec department, being that our goals kind of align quite a bit.
Great. I don't know how we want to start this, I guess. Does anybody have any initial?
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to questions, discussions. If you want to hear more, I'm happy to put together a formal discussion. I guess this is more of an open conversation of what this could look like if there was any interest at all.
I mean, for me, I'll just say I'm definitely interested in exploring this. The sponsorship avenue is definitely something nice, considering we don't currently have really any revenue streams to support maintaining the facilities. And it's also always good from a larger township benefit perspective of, like you said, if you have these kind of events, it brings people in, they end up spending money elsewhere in the community, and it's just a nice goal as well.
The other challenge too is that we don't run teams, right? We are an independent organization on purpose. Most facilities are actually owned by a specific team, a specific organization. The Junior League, the whoever. The fact that we're independent kind of gives us a bit of an advantage where teams wouldn't feel, I don't know, issues with coming into someone's home territory, right? This could be kind of a Switzerland of baseball tournaments. So we think we could help kind of promote that as well by not being affiliated with the Junior League or independent organizations.
I hadn't thought about that angle of it, but
we get that a lot. Believe it or not, coaching players, even from ages 8 to 18, is a thing. So we're very we play switch to win on that. We don't allow that in our facility. We're open to everybody. We have 60-some teams that come in there. So
nice. All right.
So the other parts too, sorry, this last thing I'll add is that we are looking for another piece of land or property in Lyon Township, or we'll start looking this summer to kind of expand our indoor footprint, and if possible, put up a field ourselves. So we have a partnership with a company that actually builds replica fields. So part of what we're in discussions of is finding a piece of land or property where house doesn't have to be much, and talking about putting up 2 of our own replica fields, right? So replica fields are actual versions, miniature in size, of course, of Fenway Park, Comerica Park, whatever. So they're extremely unique, and we bring a different experience to the area.
How does, sorry, that's the first I've ever heard of that. Is it just like scaled down architectural features of?
Yep. To the T. So placement of the wall, kind of look and feel, turf, all of it. So we're very that's kind of our future direction, is to really open that up more, and the more fields we can have tournaments on, the better.
Interesting. Okay. So I guess we talked a little bit previously, but our current operational field count is 2. There are some others that are currently in what I would say is a non-usable condition. And other land that had been slated to be developed that would include fields, but those timelines are probably pretty far down the road right now. But
Okay.
I don't know, do we want to do a quick little go around the table and you guys can say any initial thoughts here or questions for Jason?
Hi, Jason. Thanks for coming tonight. Thanks for the presentation. Aaron, new. So what does your season look like? What is your typical, I mean, what do you envision with their tournament season? And I'm curious to see what the response was when you tried to reach out to the South Lyon Junior League, since they are, they pretty much occupy the fields around this area all summer, spring and fall. So what does your season look like?
So honestly, it would be anytime there's nice weather. So we would try and start hopefully March, but you never know around here whether it's going to be March or April when we can start. We would go all the way up until October, sometimes November, depending on the weather, but generally October is where it ends. I understand the junior league for some reason has claims in all these fields, and we're not looking to subvert them or take anything away from them. Actually, I think we plan on having tournaments at all levels, right? So there's going to be rec level tournaments, travel level tournaments, elite level tournaments. And so they would be welcome to that, but we're not looking to take any time away. But I'll be honest, over the last 3 years, every time I drive by a field, it's open. And so I'm not saying they're not using them, but they could be utilized more efficiently, I would say.
Great, thank you.
So, yep. Did I answer the right question?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Did I miss one?
Absolutely. I was just curious to see especially what your season was. And I agree that there is a lot of downtime. Those fields are empty. I just didn't know. I suppose I was just curious on what your thoughts on were that. So thank you.
And we have some community activities planned too. So, so we have some former Tigers that work with our organization that are looking to do some camps and clinics and outdoor activities, and they don't really have a place to do that. So by partnering with the township, maintaining the fields, we'd be able to sponsor those activities for the entire community, not just junior league or any other organization or us. It would be open to everybody.
Amazing. I like it. Thank you.
Piggybacking on some of that, I guess you mentioned like trying to use the fields more efficiently. Is that something that do you guys have some sort of a platform or experience or ideas on how to handle kind of the scheduling aspect?
Yeah. So my day job is I work for Google. So I actually do a lot on the technical side, and we have a very data-driven facility, as you can imagine. So we have a couple different ways that we can actually do online scheduling of fields, online requests. There's a lot of different ways we could handle that. So, if it got to the point where the township was comfortable with us being a go-between or representing you in regards to, renting out the fields or letting them use them, we're happy to facilitate that too and make sure, it's kind of fair. And then we can have an auditable report of who's used the fields and how much every year and have some good data to determine where it needs to go.
Okay, that's definitely of interest to me. But I don't know, Chris, you unmuted there for a moment. Do you want to?
Yeah, since this was something that I didn't know about prior, I'm just jotting down some of the questions that I would do for any meeting. And one of the things I'd ask Jason is, my name's Chris Schecker, and I was at your meeting when you guys came to the township and you put on a good presentation. You had a partner, I think, with you at that time. I don't know if he's still with you or not.
Yes.
Okay, good. I supported it. I think you guys have done really good work. I would ask some questions, though, that I'm sure you're going to get asked anyways down the road. We're just an advisory board, and we're looking to utilize our fields, like Robert said, and Aaron and Lynn said also, or Lynn probably will say. And so with that said, you said that you spoke to the junior league, correct? All right, and
Correct. Not about the field use, but trying to. So
Okay.
when we got here, they were the first organization we reached out to, right?
Okay.
And said, hey, let us help. I guarantee we have a pro shop, right? So I guarantee we can get uniforms cheaper. We'll build special membership pricing. Because the thing that I'm personally passionate about is there's a lot of elite travel baseball that's, well, honestly, very expensive.
Mhm.
And I think it should be open to kids at all levels, at all ages, and all incomes. And so we really tried to work with that org and say, okay, how can we help? What can we do? And I'll be honest, it got frustrating, right? Because there was just not, they seem to be a little closed in regards to talking about, changes or how things could be done differently or how organizations could help. So it's been a struggle of a conversation, in all honesty.
Okay. The other concerns that arise from this is my nephew plays competitive ball and he's always out of state, coming back and forth. At these locations, they bring in porta potties. There's traffic issues sometimes. Have you even thought that far on this for utilizing the two fields that you're speaking of?
Yeah, so we were looking at actually all 4 fields, even though the 2 that are in disrepair, and seeing if there was something we could do with that. And so I started to look at what the parking situations would look like, hotel situations would look like, as well as the bathroom situations. I think we have some good answers for that. But yeah, I mean, this is the first step. If there's interest and viability, then we'll do a much deeper dive into that.
And I got one more question for you too. There is the South Lyon Rec,
Sure.
and they help to promote similar things to what you're talking about with people of all income levels and that sort of thing. Have you reached out to them at all?
We have. So the challenge that we have with the South Lyon Rec is, and we are in there, well, it used to be publication, now it's online, but we've been in there a few times. We also partner with an organization that does classes for 3 to 8-year-olds in our facility that are in the South Lyon Rec program as well. The challenge we have is that they need almost 4 or 5 months of advance notice to get it in their system. And we don't know, like it's hard to schedule high-end instructors, trainers, ex-Tigers, whatever it may be, that far in advance to know. And I don't want to just cancel on everybody. So once we get into more of a routine post-COVID, because we were open, 6 months before COVID, then I'll have a better idea of what we can actually publish and put out through the South Lyon Rec. But we absolutely do work through them for sure.
All right. I guess my last follow-up question to you is that you said that you just want to kind of get, use of the field in that. Do you have any literature, anything that you can provide or that we could see so we can help further support you? I mean, in other words, like Aaron had asked you about, your schedules and that. I mean, do you have, if you got the green light tomorrow, do you have something in place that you could provide that would show when you'd be using them from when to when and how often in that? Because I keep thinking that the junior league is going to want to utilize the fields as much as they can too. So I'm worried about that overlap.
So totally understand. And my problem is it's almost a black box of the junior league usage of all the fields in Lyon Township and South Lyon. I tried to get schedules. I tried to figure out what that looks like. I don't know, honestly. So I could totally come up with dates if I knew what the calendar looked like overall. If there's a period, even if they don't use it, or in the mornings, or I just don't know. It's not real collaborative. I'm going to be honest. So, do they have a contractual agreement with Lyon Township currently?
That's a good question, Jason. I'm not really sure. I guess I'm not the point person for that. In the past, they've come to the board and asked, like you have, if they can, if they could do certain things and that. And again, we're just an advisory board that lets the township know yay or nay, and that's it. And they've been easy to work with us. I would actually direct your questions like that to maybe the junior league. I'm sure they have a board set up that you could probably call. If anybody on one of the other board members knows, I don't know anybody on there, but if somebody else does, maybe they can help you.
So that's why I asked, actually, because my understanding is there's some sort of verbal handshake kind of agreement on using the fields. From their perspective in my conversations with the board.
I'd have to look into it a bit. I'm not aware of an actual current written agreement. had one many years ago. I believe there was something written when we built these last two fields, but I don't have it handy to check. So that's something we can look into on our end.
Robert, doesn't Dean Wickham
Look at
have that up still?
I don't know what their current leadership looks like.
Okay, I know at one
I know he's
time.
been
he
involved. I
did.
know Sean's been involved, but
Okay.
It sounds to me like we need to see what's currently in place, if anything. And then we would have to, if now that we know that there's more than one group that's interested in using the fields, we'd have to, request them to give us a schedule of usage so that other people can start using it. It can't just be whenever you want so that nobody else knows when they can come.
Yeah, that's all we're looking for, right? Like I said, we're not looking to subvert what they do. We actually, I know that their numbers have been kind of declining year over year with the evolution of travel baseball becoming a little more affordable and where rec leagues are at. I actually think it'd be beneficial to them, right? The more activities we could run through those fields, the more tournaments at the level we could set for their teams. Getting them to see it has been a challenge. So we'd love to see the schedule and figure out how to collaborate for sure.
okay. So it sounds like there's definitely interest in looking into this and trying to move forward. As far as next step, I guess we've got to look up to see if there's any current actual agreements or not, and then I guess probably bring them in on the conversation either way to try and move forward and see what we might be able to do here. The only other thing, which I guess is kind of a crossover potentially here with Nicole, is the ideas of possibly rehabilitating the other two fields. And I think I mentioned this briefly to you earlier, Jason, but they are still somewhat shifting. So I don't think that it's off the table, but going into it, you'd need to know that any investments you make there might need to be reinvested more than the average field as things continue to shift. I don't know, Nicole, do you have any comments you want to make about that area that might be relevant to Jason?
No, I think you kind of explained it well. The landfill is shifting. It's there's decomposition that's happening. So at any point in time, it might settle a little bit here or there. And so I think you kind of explained it well, Robert.
Okay. All right. So Chris, were you gonna add something there?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Jason. So what is what's the goal here? What are you looking at? I guess what's the plan? Are you looking at doing something this year, next year? I know with COVID, it's thrown a loophole it's thrown a horseshoe and everything. What are you seeking moving forward?
So we'd like to try and get maybe one or two under our belt this summer, get the name out there a bit, and then honestly, we plan to do some really kind of cool things to differentiate this tournament or these tournaments from everywhere else, right? So, like we invested in about a piece of tech that's about $25,000 that will actually, broadcast live stats for every player, pitcher, swing, exit velocity, as well as video. And so we would look to do that for like the championship games of the tournament. We're looking at kind of getting rings for kids, championship teams and rings, and make it a real experience. So part of the fallout of COVID, Cooperstown is the big 12-year-old dream, right? You go to Cooperstown and play there, these great tournaments and experience, and it's fallen through the last 2 years, and it's probably not going to happen this year either. So there's an opportunity to build just a really cool experience that's local that people can go to. We're in the middle of Indiana, Chicago, Northern Michigan. It's a good hub. So our plan is, try and get one or two under our belt, prove this out, and then honestly see what we can do next summer and kind of keep the momentum going. But if if the junior league's going to take over the fields or have, monopolize them, then, we'll proceed with conversations with, Novi or Northville or, Brighton to grab field somewhere else. But we'd rather do it in our hometown.
Can you give an estimate of what you said you've done these at other cities, right? Townships?
No, we haven't yet.
Do you have an idea what the revenue that you could draw from this is?
So for us, it depends. So there's not a ton in it for us. When it comes to our benefit, we'll have some wood bat tournaments. So obviously we sell wood bats. We'll do some creative things like that, but it's really just getting our name out there and being part of the community and township. At most, there would be some revenue from camps and clinics and activities we could run in mass, across the fields. But other than that, it's really just more of a marketing activity.
So for the township itself, it'd be hotel, small business stuff, correct? Okay.
Hotel, right, restaurants, etc.
Well, thank you for answering my questions. It was nice seeing you again. Thank you.
So do you have like
Absolutely.
you said that you wanted to run, one or two tournaments. So can you give us, do you have a presentation or can you give us something that gives us an idea of, how many games that would be, that you would need, approximately how many days over what period of time, so that as we work with the junior league, we can see, we know what it is that you need, and so that we can try and see if
Sure.
that's available.
Sure. We're looking at least probably a weekend, like a tournament. A tournament would be probably Friday to Sunday, all day, for sure. So beginning of the afternoon Friday till end of day Sunday, as long as possible, is probably what we'll be looking at. But again, I really would like to understand the junior league's kind of dominance over why we have to clear it with them too. If there's a contractual agreement, that's fine. I'll move on. Like, I got it. Totally understand. But trying to figure out how we can bring value here too.
So it sounds like at this point, what we can really do to help you determine what you want to move forward with us with this or not is to kind of make that connection and get everybody to the table. Is that fair?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm just looking for, do they actually have a contractual agreement, first of all, right? If they do, then that's a whole different conversation.
So I think, Jason, the reason why I originally brought it up is because has been a long-standing organization within this community. So of course, it's the number one thing that people are it's just name recognition. So I know that my kids have played ball with South Lyon Junior League. I coached for them for a year. And so that was it was a natural transgression into the conversation. But I don't want it to discourage you in any way, because I think your idea is amazing. And I would go watch, even if my kids were not playing. It's one of those things that it would be really enjoyable. And I think it'd be great for the community too. So thank you.
Jason,
No worries.
I'll
Appreciate
say
that.
I'm all for supporting our parks, especially the one park that we do have. I think that if we could put people there, it'll help to expand things that this board's been talking about, trying to get the township to work with us on. One of the things that we just recently came across that we're going to be talking about later tonight, if you stick around, is applying for some grant money. And so, we're looking at developing it. If we can get, if they know that we have a surplus of people coming into the park, I think that would help to, I guess, put the notion in place that, that they're getting looked at, the park's getting looked at, and it'll, it helps us to help the township to make us all look better. And I want to applaud your effort with trying to keep this in Lyon Township. It sounds like you've dealt with some adversity, and most business people would just say, all right, the hell with it, let's move on. And so with that being said, I don't know who's going to head this up for us, but whatever we can do, we'll help you, like Aaron said.
Excellent. Appreciate the support.
Yeah. So with that, I guess we'll start with trying to dig up that answer to whether there really is a contract or what the state of the agreement is, and we'll go from there.
And we'll start to put together a couple of the structures for the first couple tournaments. so I can give you a little more detail that
Yeah, if you could
that we had.
just some sort of example of, it doesn't have to be like a finalized plan or anything, but I think that would be helpful in the conversation moving forward. So
Okay.
yeah, all right. So with that, I guess thank you for coming and taking the time and bringing the idea. And if, assuming everybody's good at this point with this, if you want to drop off, you can. If you want to hang out, you feel free as well. So.
If anyone else have any questions, by the way, feel free to reach out. I'm available anytime, and Robert's got my contact info.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Over to you, Nicole. I don't know if I don't think Aaron and Lynn have had a chance to meet you yet. They've heard your name, but
We've heard of Nicole, but we've
yes.
never.
Robert,
I don't
I
know if
think. Go ahead. I was going to say, if it's sorry, can I give a brief introduction real quick, if that's all right with
Sure.
everybody?
Yeah, go for it.
So how it came about was that when Robert and I were on the board, and I say that only because there's nobody else left from the board prior, we were working. I got in touch with Nicole, and what happened was Nicole and I have developed a pretty good working rapport in the last 2 to 3 years. I've mentioned her name quite a bit here. She represents the Republic for the park there on the properties that Lyon Township leases that they own. She's been a wealth of knowledge and a big help at times. Robert and I have had a few conference calls with her at times. And with that being said, I asked her to come here tonight so that I could talk to you guys about a couple of the assignments I had that involved Nicole. But I felt it was important that she maybe be on this so I don't misrepresent her company's role and what we're gonna, what we're looking at doing. The other reason why I asked her was to come on board here was just because I felt that as much as I have mentioned your name, Nicole, you maybe should show your face. So with that said, everybody, this is Nicole Green, and she's very approachable. So, don't be shy to reach out to her. It only takes her a week to get back to you, but that's okay. So with that said, how do you want to do this, Robert? Do you want me to jump into why she's here with the things I did, or do you guys want to ask her questions, Aaron or Lynn? I mean, how do you guys want to go about this?
I would say go ahead and bring up what you wanted to talk about, unless I don't know if Nicole, if you had anything you wanted to add intro wise, but okay.
All right. Well, Nicole, you know that I reached out to you, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong anything or misrepresent anything. That's why I asked you to be here tonight, because it's kind of sensitive what we're talking about here. So what we did is that at our last board meeting last month, Nicole, we had assigned some things, tasks to do. 2 of the tasks that involved you were the sled hill, as well as the playground. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes over here. The playground, or I'm sorry, not the playground, the ball diamonds over there to the east side that you have spoke about before. I have shared with the board that a lot of the ideas that we talk about here, you share as well, and that you've always been supportive of us and trying to help us as well. And I want to say, as a board member in front of the board publicly, that I appreciate that. It's a big help. I know that Christina has also worked through you, which I think makes it easier for her to work with us. So I appreciate her help and input on this as well. When I reached out to you, I think it was January 21st, right the day after our meeting. Some notes I have here. I had talked to you about the sled hill, and I told you what we were looking at proposing. And at that time, you said, well, let me run some stuff by Christina, and we'll isolate that one first. You talked to Christina and said that wouldn't be a problem. You just wanted to see where it was going to be so that we can mark it out. I explained to you that this year's probably shot, but that I would meet up with you probably sometime late February, early March, perhaps trying to bring a board member with me so that they would see what we're looking at doing. And that I had also asked you about donating a trash can or something at the bottom so we can minimize the trash that's there. And your response was that Christina liked the idea and said it would be fine, and that they would consider, donating. At least you used the word that they would consider donating a trash can, a bigger size trash can, to help aid in trash collection. At that time, though, we were talking about doing it on the west side of the hill, opposite of the ball diamond. You had suggested, I think, the northwest side. Am I correct on that? You're on mute. Uh-oh.
You have a hardware mute button?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. I wasn't muted on my screen. Yes, that is correct. That's where I had proposed, and we also talked about potentially doing it kind of in between the hills, as maybe a better option, as there's kind of a flat portion and no ditch.
I think the other advantage of between the hills is easier access for parking versus, you know, not having to plow the whole eastern hill basically to get people there.
So at that point, after she talked to Christina and confirmed this with me, I called back Nicole. I believe it was February 2nd, Nicole. But anyways, when I called you back then to discuss this, you had said, yeah, that's the agreement was that me and you would meet, and I would try to get a board member to go with us, and we would decide where we're at, and then present it to the Lyon Township Board, so that, because we've done our homework, as you had already asked if we've done our homework on that side, and I said, yeah, we found out liability and all that, we did that. So that moving forward for next year, we can advertise it starting hopefully like in October, November, and start getting the people there, because there's going to be some miscellaneous questions that we got to get answered. You know, like right now, currently they have the gates closed most of the winter. Is that going to be open? That's stuff that on our end that we'll have to get taken care of. But that's the game plan. You said that Christina was in support of that, so that'd be fine. If nobody has any questions at this point, I'll move on to the second topic with Nicole that I worked with her on. That's the more, again, it's going to bring up more questions. Lynn, Aaron, Robert? No? All right. The second task that I was, or the second topic that I was tasked with was the ball diamonds. And I talked to you at the same time, the day after our meeting, Nicole. And at that time, I had told you that we were looking at getting the removal done. And that the two questions I asked you was that what can we put in there? You know, if you had any ideas, because I know that you guys, especially you have more knowledge of it than we do as far as how they're ground shifting and what's allowed and what isn't. The other question I asked you is that if there was any recommendation that you can make for maybe Republic. I think I worded it asking you, does Republic work with other municipalities as far as working to donate money or grant money or any of that stuff to help us do something there, like a dog park, like a kid park, like whatever we do over there. And your answer was, again, when you came back and talked to me about the Sledding Hill at that same time, I think it was on February 2nd, and I wrote question marks. I know it was off by a day or two, but that you talked to Christina about that as well. And that your answers were, you wouldn't recommend anything being poured cement wise because there's still a shifting going on. That's number one. Number two, you guys were okay with us doing whatever we wanted within reason. And when I asked you that, you said that it couldn't be like a building structure or nothing like that, but like I think you had used the word, and I wrote down here, I wrote question mark, but like a playground would be okay. I don't know if you're referring to playground sets or just a playground. But the other thing that came up was that you told me that Christina said that they don't do anything with other municipalities. However, depending on what we do, that they referring to Republic, would consider doing something with us after we get a plan in place for whatever we choose to do. At that time, me and you discussed the removal of that, and the cost would fall strictly on the township. I asked you if there was anything that we had to do to oversee. The question I asked you was if there was anything we had to do now to prepare if we start getting costs to get that removal of the ball diamond. If there was anything more we would have to do with you, and you said we just have to get it finalized with Christina since you guys own the property over there. And I said that wouldn't be a problem. The last thing on it was that I jokingly had said, well, what would your recommendations be, since Christina probably hasn't been out there in some time and you're always out there. And you really didn't have anything. You just said that you reiterated what you said before. You wouldn't put anything affixed onto the ground itself, like kid structures or a building or any cement, because of the shifting that might occur. And that's how we ended that. I said to you that I called you and asked you if you would attend our board meeting, because I know that that's a hot topic right now of getting that removed. I mean, Nicole, I'll bring this up. Me and you have been out there several times together, and I've talked about the tick problem that exists. I talked about how that looks like Beirut over there. It's been bombed out. I am exaggerating that a little bit, but it's not, it is an eyesore to some degree. But also the other thing that came up too with that was that we got to be careful, because like you said, the building behind there is that extraction center for gas or something. So you said that we have to be careful right there, despite whatever we do. I thought it'd be a good idea to bring you here tonight to have the other board members just ask their questions about this, because it was talked about for a few minutes last time. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you. And I'll continue to work with you and give you a call on it. At this point right now, if you approve everything or if nobody has any questions, then I'm hoping that we can start maybe trying to work with the township to get some cost for removal of that area and seeing what we can do.
I have a quick question. If this is even an answer that you can pull out here, given your experience, or if there's any data, how long does it take for that major shifting to sort of settle down? Is it like a 10-year period, a 15-year period? Does it depend on the actual land itself and the decomposition? Like, when do people actually bring it into, an economic target rather than a sanitation mode? How does that work?
It really depends on the landfill itself and what kind of trash it took in. So back in, the day when it was open in, the early 90s, late 80s, the trash was not compacted as well as it is now. And so that's part of the issue. Now we thoroughly compact it, so you won't see as much shifting as you do kind of at Lion. And unfortunately, because it is so old, we don't have a lot of good records, and every landfill is different. It's like a child. We call it our babies because every single one is different. And so unfortunately, I don't have a good time frame to give you because we just simply don't know.
Sure. No, that makes sense. I figured there were going to be way too many variables, but I thought I'd ask anyway.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. And have you guys done any, I don't know, as far as the baseball fields, and I'm only curious about this because of the presentation that we just had.
Yeah.
If you're interested in maintaining those fields, have you guys done anything? I know Chris mentioned that you haven't done a ton of those things. Have you seen anything? Are you privy to any knowledge of maintaining an actual field with, some semblance of what it's supposed to look like and without the cement or?
I just think it would be from, experience.
Nicole, you're muted.
I lost you again.
I don't think she heard you, Aaron.
You lost your sound. We can't
Aaron.
hear you. We can't hear you. Can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
Okay, can you guys hear me now? I don't know what's going on.
Got you now.
I can't hear you guys now. All right. I don't know what is going on. I've never had issues before. So I was saying that I think it would be really hard to have ball diamonds on the landfill. I mean, you guys have seen it, that it settles. I think we can track the settling or how much it's settling over the next couple of years to determine maybe in 10 years it'll be, okay. Maybe in 5 years it'll be okay. Maybe in the number will be okay. We don't have an answer for that. And so I really think it'd be difficult to have some sort of ball diamond on the field just because of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What would it take to track that? Would you have set up some special equipment, or how do you go about tracking to see how much it's shifting per year?
Yeah, we have several methods that we can do. So at the site, typical at most landfills is we run an aerial survey. So it takes the entire landfill and determines where it was at from the last point it was, the last point that we took that survey. We can also do what we call foot surveys, where we visually monitor how much it's settling. We typically don't do that on closed landfills just because there's not a need. But if that's something that you guys would be interested in, I can definitely talk to Republic to see if that's something we can do more frequently.
This is just me geeking out and getting too into the weeds, but is the aerial survey like a LiDAR sweep, or what do you actually, or is it just like photogrammetric stuff? Like, are you taking some sort of actual measurement or just inferring from the images?
That might be a little bit too in the weeds
Okay,
for me as
that's
well.
fair. Sorry.
But we just, we have a certain target points that we try to hit, and we have a drone fly over the landfills, and they have to hit those target points, and we can see based off those target points kind of where things are at. It's typically more for active landfills because you want to know how much trash you have in your landfill and how much trash you can still put in your landfill. So that's why we typically do it, on the active sites, but we do fly it every once in a while on the closed sites as well.
All right. So, I mean, considering Republic is not a small organization, I guess something that we often have struggled with over the years here is basically what can we do? And I guess, is there a way that we could put feelers out into Republic to say, with other closed landfills in their portfolio, like what are some successful projects that have been done? Like what I know, obviously, like you said, I mean, with more modern landfills that were more heavily compacted, you can do more, but I mean, there's got to be a bunch of other landfills out there of a similar age and condition, and to just kind of see, has anybody been able to do anything with them?
Yeah, I have brought this up to Republic in the past, and unfortunately, you would think that there's a lot more.
Oh, we lost you again.
I don't know what's going on. I have no idea.
That's
so sorry.
Zoom.
Yeah, I typically use Microsoft Teams. So maybe that's it. I don't know.
It knows.
So although I have actually brought this up to Republic before to see kind of what they've done, and although you would think that there's a lot of landfill or parks on landfills, there's actually not that many. Just from the aspect of the settling makes it difficult. And the two things that they had brought up were to do a solar panels, which I know we've kind of already talked about, or Chris and I have already talked about, as well as a couple people have mentioned they just have nature reserves, or like a river walk more so type of thing. And then the last thing that I haven't talked to Republic about it, but it's like a little archery center. I know someone had mentioned that they're very popular.
Muted. You're muted.
I don't know.
Nicole, are you on Wi-Fi or are you on data right now?
Maybe I should try calling in on my phone. I don't. I'm very sorry.
We only need a couple more minutes. So,
okay.
Robert, I wanted to address with the board here present, just so that I can catch them up, Nicole and Aaron, more specific. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole. One of the things that I want you guys to understand is on the past boards, I was attempting, to Robert's question, we were attempting to try to do something with the landfill there. We have anywhere, you said 5 to 7 feet down, we can go in certain spots. We could dig in without hitting what they call the blanket, and that's the barrier that protects us from the waste. However, Nicole, about 2 years ago, and she really helped me out big time. I had gotten in touch with a guy from University of Michigan who was an attorney who actually works with the municipalities on safeguarding the public, but also coming up with ideas for doing landfill stuff. When it's a landfill like ours, where the records are real spotty and they're not sure what's in there, they're real limited, because if you have a reaction or anything like that, of course, then the township's responsible and all that, Republic. So like Nicole said, we've kicked around a few ideas, and we've explored it as far as we can. And to your point, Robert, yeah, you would think that we could do more, but there's not a lot we can do, just because of environmental conditions that exist there.
Yeah, I know. It's just I've seen, there have been articles I've come across where somebody built a strip mall on top of one, basically, but I'm assuming, again, that's a much more compacted end of life kind of a situation.
Yeah, and it's just like I said, every landfill is different,
Yeah,
so you
right.
never know what you're gonna get. It depends on what trash is in there. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, do you take in certain type of trash versus maybe municipal, like your average household trash? It just really depends on what you take in and how well you compacted it. There's various possibilities with landfills.
You did mention the solar thing. I don't remember where we left off with that, of whether it was feasible or why it wasn't. Could you just briefly comment on that?
Yeah, I went to a conference actually about a year ago where we talked about this, and it is feasible, but I don't think it would necessarily work. I think they have some methods to account for some settling, and it could work definitely. I just think the problem is we have gas extraction wells throughout the landfill, and typically they put them on landfills that don't have as much gas, and we have a lot of gas extraction wells on the landfill, and so it's difficult to work around those, and it's difficult to have the power, and you have to have a direct line of power to the solar panels, which I think was going to be another issue that we had talked about.
Okay.
To add to that, Robert, the township wasn't interested in doing it when I talked to them.
Okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, the one, Nicole, isn't the one, the solar panels, isn't that the big project that they're doing in Ann Arbor now, or just completing it, that you were working with them on?
I'm not working with them, but I know that they're doing that.
Oh,
DTE is working with them. Mhm.
Sorry, that's right. It was ZT. I'm sorry, that's right.
Yeah. So the gas brings up another point of something that I think I've tried to mention before to the rest of these guys, but I guess where are we at in terms of gas production levels? Because I know originally, just for history, for people to know, way back there was, we were getting a lot of gas out of it. As the trash breaks down, it makes methane basically, and that goes and gets channeled through some pipes, I think, and that was sent to a facility that you guys had that ran a little turbine, and we generated power from it and sold that back to DTE onto the grid. And that used to be a revenue stream for the park, was that we got, I don't know what share of it we got, but however many years ago, I don't remember, I don't have this stuff in front of me, but that was discontinued. And I believe, if I'm remembering right, that the reason was basically that the gas production levels had dropped to such a level that it didn't justify the cost to continue operating the generation facility. And so I wanted to reiterate that history for our newer board members, and particularly while you were here, so you could correct me if I was wrong on that.
Nope, that is correct. You said it very well.
Nicole,
I will say though that we can you hear me? Okay, yeah.
Yep.
We are still producing gas out of it, so we do get still quite a bit of flow out of it. It's just not enough to run those engines, like you were saying.
What do we do with the gas that is generated?
We burn it.
Oh, you're gone again. Oh.
It was just working 2 minutes ago. We have a flare on site, so we burn it off just behind Tractor Supply. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Yep. There's a flame or a flare, and so we 100% destruct it.
Okay. That facility, sorry, I know I'm on a roll with this. I'll let other people ask things, I promise. But that facility has one of your main service drives running to it.
If you were talking to me, I couldn't hear. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. I just, so the burn off facility has one of the main service drives running to it, I think, right? Or there is a service drive there.
Yes.
Just getting to the fact that we've on and off over recent years, we've talked about trying to complete a pathway around the entire perimeter of the park instead of just where it was. And we ran into a potential issue with crossing that service drive with the path.
Yeah, I don't know much about that.
Was that more in Christina's wheelhouse?
Yeah, I know she's done some work with it, and we have surveyed to the point that we can, I think that this is a little, iffy, but I think we've determined that we can move the fence back if you guys did want to make that complete loop. I would
Okay.
have to follow back up with Christina and Republic to make sure that is the case, but that's what I believe.
Okay, yeah, and we can get into details later. I just wanted to see, like, was that totally a dead project, or is it something that there's potential to work with on where, we might need to put up some bollards or whatever else, but.
Yeah, it was to my understanding that Republic was fully on board and was ready to move, and for some reason it stopped. So that's my understanding.
Okay, good to know there. And this, I don't expect like an answer, but just putting out there as a potential future idea of the land that that formerly housed the generation plant. It seems like there's a lot of dead space there now, and that, if I'm not mistaken, is off the landfill, so could be a place that something could be built. And I guess I would be curious to know what Republic's long-term plans are of, whether you intend to rebuild something there, or whether that's potentially an area that we could look at adding recreational facilities or something else of a municipal nature.
Yeah, I can definitely bring that up to Republic. I would think that their answer is that we kind of use that space to utilize for spare parts that we need around the landfill in different aspects that, we only have a small portion of that landfill where we can store things and do things at. So that's kind of, our little spot, but
yeah,
I can definitely bring that up to Republic.
Would totally understand. It's just, something that, like, I think, maybe it makes sense every now and then to check in and just
absolutely
see
if
plans are changing. So
absolutely.
Okay.
Nicole, I want to jump in here and bring up something. One of the things I talk about quite frequently on in our meetings is that with you in particular is the two things: the mowing of the park, that seems to be an issue that I've brought up for the last couple of years, also as well as the tick issue. And so that I don't have to, maybe it'll carry more weight with you if you could tell these folks, when you show up to our park and our park only, will you tell them what special gear you wear?
Yeah, I've went out and personally bought tick repellent clothing. I make sure that none of my skin is showing. So I have like hair ties around my arms, and I have hats and scarves and stuff when it's 90 degrees, because the tick problem is really, really awful at that landfill. It's not like that at any other place. In fact, there's been some workers. I don't know what to do anymore.
You're all right. You said some workers I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh my gosh, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I'm flabbergasted on this, what's happening.
You cut off when you said some workers.
Okay. So I wasn't the entire way. Yeah, some workers have actually refused to work at the landfill because of the tick problem has been so bad.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I know a lot of people walk their dogs and stuff, but I wouldn't bring my dog to the landfill knowing how bad the tick problem is without thoroughly checking him.
The other question I was going to ask you is that this board knows me as kind of a little bit of a, I'll put it out there, I'm kind of loud and blunt. So I've told them, and if you could verify this, I told them at the time that me and you met for the first time, and I was in your vehicle, and I asked you why you were all in boots and gloves, and it was 90 degrees that day, if you recall. And remember what I told you? I said, it can't be that bad. And you said, well, just get on and go take a walk, remember? And I was only in maybe knee-deep grass, and I think I went, maybe 10 feet? I'm not exaggerating that, and came back and had 2 or 3 ticks on me. And I said, I guess you're right. And from that day on, you were dead right. The other, if you could just comment real quick too, and then we can let you go unless people got questions. The other thing I brought up to our 2 new board members and our past board members was I've been complaining a lot about the mowing plan. And I think I updated you as to what the township said that they would do to help us. I've said to people in the past that on the west side, where the trail starts halfway down and then starts to go around to where the freeway is, you can actually walk in a tunnel of trees and grass. I'm not grossly exaggerating that, am I? Okay. I've let this board know that as well, because it just gets so high. And I know that me and you, even last year when you and I were there were several sections not mowed at all. I'm 6 even and they came past my waist. So I know that me and you talking have said that that's a concern, and that a lot of people don't walk back there either because of the fact that they're scared too, because you can't see or hear anything. So I appreciate you commenting on that, and of course letting the board know that, because it's something that I brought up quite a bit. So the tick problem, I'm trying to get the township to spray.
I was gonna say, we even, to try to compensate a little bit for the high grass in some of our areas, we even hire a third-party vendor to come in and cut some of the grass in some of the areas, because our contractors can't do work on site.
Wow. Okay. Well, Nicole, on behalf of me and the board, I would say thank you. Unless somebody's got questions, I appreciate you being here tonight, and I'll continue to follow up with you like I do at times. And more importantly, thanks for your help on all this, and I'll keep you updated like I always do. But thank you.
Of course, feel free to reach out to me at any time. Anybody, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to help. I would love to see something done with the park. I'm just as eager as you guys to get something, up there that gets people to the park. So
Yeah.
Hopefully the ball diamonds will put a little bit of pressure on the township to help us, right?
yeah.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry about my audio. I apologize for that. I don't know what's happening.
See, Aaron, Lynn, did you guys, I know that was a lot of information, but
I'm good. No, I think we're good. I was actually
I'm
going to
fine.
kind of be talking and not you be able to hear me, but I'm not going to do that to you. We're all good. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
yeah, thanks again, Nicole.
Nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys too.
All right.
So Robert, do you want me to continue with the other 2 tasks at hand that that I did, and then we can turn it over to whoever has theirs done, or whatever you want to do? You're on mute, Robert.
Sorry. Of course, it's.
So, and these 2 are real quick because I don't have a lot going on.
I was just gonna say no. They're on the agenda. So I assume if you're talking about, what were you gonna talk about? Sledding and
No, I already talked about
bikes
those,
and whatever. Well,
the bike ramp.
I think all of that is on the agenda. So let's
follow that. Okay, that's fine.
go through. That's okay. So that wraps up then our presentations portion. So now we have the call to the public. So at this point, I'm assuming, John, we don't have anybody on the phones.
Nope, there's no one in the meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
Alrighty. Then we will close the call to the public. Let's see what we started that. We'll say 8:10 and closed it at 8:11. So items that we sent to either administrative team or township board or whoever else to deal with. The update here, just briefly, that Brian was able to work with our DNR representative and get all the paperwork cleared up. So we do now have an officially accepted and approved Parks and Recreation master plan on file. So we are now considered eligible for the various DNR programs that require that. At this point, I just want to say that that was the update, and we'll get into talking about now what do we do with grants when we get to our new business item. So I don't think there should be anything else at this point, but I want to give you guys a chance if you had any questions about just that piece of it. Nope. Oh, Chris,
I'll comment. If you guys all read the email that I sent out, Aaron and Lynn, I stated that we need to find a contact person because in the email it states Ms. Cart. If any one of us called even Robert included, and wanted to do something or ask questions, we can't do that. And so I had asked Brian in the email that you guys saw if we could get that contact person. So Robert's going to work on that moving forward. I sent an email back today with you guys on there as well. I don't know if you saw that or not. I would think that it would benefit the township to allow one of us, not for anything authorizing, but just for research purposes to bring to the township to be able to do that for us, for our board, but to, present to the township to move things forward, especially with the timeline in place of April 1st. So, I, like Robert said.
So we can have those discussions and see if there's a willingness or interest to change that. But for now, the way it stands is that John and Brian are the only authorized people on our My Grants account. So given that, Brian has expressed that he's happy to pass anything along between us. So if we need anything from them or want to ask, he can be that go-between for now. So wrapping that up and moving along to our unfinished business. So item 4A, we have our delayed from the end of our last meeting, the officer elections. So I'll start it off by just saying that, again, since it has been advised that I not be an officer, and there are 3 of you remaining, and we have 3 officer positions, we need to have a little discussion and work through here who's going to take what spot, and then we'll vote on that, and you'll be in your new roles, and we can continue to move forward. So how do we want to start this off? I guess everybody knows there's the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. The vice chair basically just assumes the duties of the chair when they're gone. The chair basically is responsible for running the meetings and giving any reports when needed to the township board or liaising with others, though that part of it I am willing to continue to do as needed. Oh wait, I think we lost Lynn for a moment.
Yeah, looks like we lost her altogether.
Yeah.
Maybe she got upset.
Well, disconnection moment here. So
I'm messing. Maybe she quit. That was her way of quitting. I'm done. Click.
The Zoom gods have not been smiling on us tonight. So.
No, not tonight. We'll blame it on John.
I'm doing my best.
So, I mean, technically, I guess technically we still have a quorum. Just barely.
Yeah, is she reconnecting, or what did happen?
She's she doesn't appear to be in the meeting at all. As soon as she comes back in the waiting room, I'll let her back in, but
yeah,
for the moment she's just not here.
Well, I don't know, Aaron, unless you have a specific position that you want, I would do vice chair. And the reason why I would do vice chair is just because of the fact that I don't mind filling in. I've been on the board long enough to know what could go on or what we could do if someone's not here. I don't mind helping to take notes, but I certainly am not a good steward of note taking. Let's just say that. I don't want to be the leader of the group. You gotta, I think that would be best served with somebody else due to my personality and, just I'm not ripping myself, but I'm I want to hit the ground running 1,000 miles an hour. If we're going to lead this board, we need somebody that knows how to pump the brakes too sometimes. So I don't mind helping doing that, so I don't mind being vice chair if that's acceptable to you. If that's acceptable to you and Lynn, of course, Aaron. Oh, so there she is.
I'm back, got dropped.
We thought you quit.
No, I got dropped. I'm happy where I'm at, so.
All right, so
Robert. Oh, go ahead, Aaron. I'm sorry.
no, it's quite all right. I certainly don't mind stepping up and taking that chair position. It's not something that I intended on doing, nor do I feel prepared to do so. So should this transpire, you're going to have to be very patient with me while I start to understand and become acclimated with the procedures. But I don't mind doing it for the board's sake. So
Nothing wrong with a little trial by fire.
right, yeah.
I won't let any of you drown, but okay. So I guess we'll go along here and I would nominate Aaron as the new chair.
I second that.
Okay. All right. Do we, I guess do we want to, yeah, let's vote on that. Cause I don't think anybody, Chris has said he's not interested. Lynn, I don't think you were interested.
I'm not interested. I manage all day,
Okay.
a team. I don't want to manage more.
So in that case, we'll go ahead and vote on that one.
Hold on, Robert. Let me ask you a question real quick. Aaron, would you, and I'm asking because I guess we're going to have to do it one or the other. I don't mind doing the chair. I don't like writing. I'm not a good writer. I've always hated it. If you're willing to do the secretary spot, I'll do the chair. But I know that you're like me and got kids and a lot going on. How would you feel about that?
Honestly, I'm fine with whatever. I
Okay.
really am.
I will do the, I don't know. Okay. All right.
This is, I'm surprised. I thought the chair was going to be the one nobody wanted. It turns out it's the secretary.
Yeah, I literally am fine with whatever. Honestly, I'm a path of least resistance in this regard.
Okay.
Whatever's going to help the board the most is fine.
All right. Lynn, are you set on just sticking with vice chair, or would you also consider secretary?
Oh no, I don't even do that in my own meetings. I have other people who are my scribes.
Okay. All right. So, all right, I'm gonna rewind that then. I guess you guys all have to agree to take whatever spots. So I don't talk amongst yourselves. Are you, how does this sound now?
It's fine. Whatever it is, whatever you guys need, I'm fine with it.
What would you, I mean, what would you feel more comfortable doing? I don't care either way.
I honestly don't either. I'm comfortable with whatever because I'm just going to learn it quickly and it's going to be fine, but whatever way it goes. So if you don't want to take notes, I'm very used to doing those things. It's fine. It's no big deal.
Well, let's discuss it real quick. Robert, you would be still providing the input at the meeting, right? Aaron wouldn't have to show up, nor I, if we would do it, right? Unless we chose to.
Yes, whoever is the chair is more than welcome to show up and give that report, but I will be there anyway and am fine doing it if they don't want to or can't.
Now, here's a question to ask to you, Robert. If Aaron or I are the chair, and it does involve discussing the idea, representing an idea, like let's say with DBAT or with something with Republic, you can't do that at that point because the chairperson would have to represent that, correct?
I mean, I think it's best if they do, but it's not I don't know that it's an absolute necessity.
Okay. All right. And then as far as chair, other than that, like you said, they just run the meeting and that's it, correct?
That's the primary thing, is the run the meeting bit.
All right. And then as far as the secretary role goes, it's just preparing the agenda and that's it.
It's agenda and minutes.
Well, I mean, as far as minutes, so the minutes are gonna be dictated by the agenda is gonna be dictated by the minutes, correct?
Well, no,
You have your agenda that, this is what we're going to do for our meeting. And then the minutes of what actually occurred during the meeting that you're taking notes on. So the agendas tend to be pretty much the same thing every time with maybe minor changes.
I mean, they flow into each other. So like what I do when I've been doing the notes the last meeting was I take the agenda for that meeting and I add my notes to it, and that becomes the minutes. And then from the minutes or just my recollections, I put together what the agenda is for the next meeting, just based on what we did or didn't talk about and what looks like it needs to be talked about again. And then you add in whatever came up in the time in between. You're muted.
Can't hear you, Chris.
Or I asked for I was asking so that for you could, do you have a preference now of what one you would want or no? Okay.
Sorry, no, I don't.
We appear to be at an impasse here. I can't,
so
I don't care either way.
I can't tell you guys.
No, I mean, if you want to flip a coin, Robert, and say, okay, Chris, you're secretary, or Aaron, I don't care.
Rock, paper, scissors. And
yeah, but I will tell you, as secretary, there's going to probably be some problems with the minutes early on in that. I'm just noting that now.
I mean, the key thing with minutes for these sorts of things is that you capture the motions that were made, who made them, who seconded them, and what the vote was.
This is a piece of cake. I can do this. This is fun, right? Like, this is super easy.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And you know what? If we try it one way and you guys decide that it's not working out, we can always come back and you can switch.
Okay, fair enough.
All right. So what did you decide?
Aaron, I'm putting the pressure on you, Aaron. What would you like to do? I know you got school and kids, so what would you like to do?
It does not matter. I will here. Let's just make this easy. Chris, take the chair. I will take secretary position. If it doesn't work out, like Robert said, we'll just switch. It's fine.
All right, cool. Because like I said, I would prefer, like I was saying before Lynn came back, I would prefer to have maybe somebody like you. That's, like I said, I know I hit the ground running 100 miles an hour, and sometimes that's not always good. So I would, it's good to have somebody that can think in both realms. I try to and will, but at the same time, like you said, thank you for being open about it. We'll figure it out. We'll try it a couple times here and we'll see what happens, right?
Sounds good.
All right. So in that case, I will redo my nomination and I will nominate Chris as chair, Lynn as vice chair, and Aaron as secretary.
I second that motion.
Okay. All those in favor of that slate.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed. All right. So congratulations, everybody.
If we had a new person, Robert, they have a right. We can always include them to take a spot if let's say.
Sure. I mean, if somebody comes in and we think that they'd be good for one of these roles, yeah, I don't think there's anything that should stop us from readjusting. It's just that the default thing is annually. So, if we don't do anything, then it'll come up again in January.
All right. Well, thanks, Aaron. I want to say that to you. I appreciate it. It was, like I said, a flip of the coin for me on either one. So thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Great. So that resolves 4A. And with that, technically, not my job anymore. No.
Well, thanks. First new piece, get rid of Robert.
So with that said, I guess I have some notes prior to this point. Usually I just end up getting distracted with talking and being in the meeting and having been trying to run it. And so I would just go back and watch the video and fill in the gaps I had. But I have most of what happened so far. I guess, Aaron, are you prepared or able or okay to pick it up from here on, or?
Do you mind taking the rest of the day? I'm not.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
I did. This did get sprung on you, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll probably end up just going back and watching it and filling it in, but
Okay.
I can do that.
Aaron, the other thing I do too, sometimes Robert will call me for stuff. I don't do the vote recording, but sometimes I'll take a topic down of stuff that we've talked about just so that I can keep track. And if I have to watch the video over to see. So if you ever want to call me to see if what I might have to help you out, let me know.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So with that, now it's time for Chris to say that we're moving ahead to 4B for the Sledding Hill.
That would be nice, but I wasn't prepared, so I don't have the agenda up in front of me.
All right, fine. You know what? That's fine. I will, if it makes everybody feel better, we will just make these effective at our next meeting.
Perfect. All right, thank you. And you're going to have to work with me, Robert, on a couple things. Why I know some of the stuff, I don't know everything, so just bear with me.
All right. So Sledding Hill, Chris.
We discussed that already. Just quick.
Yeah. Anything to?
Yeah, we just got to go ahead and just choose a spot. It'll be something that's more for next year than this year.
Okay, that was what I was going to say, is just to clarify then that we're not going to be moving on anything for this winter. It's a work on it now and have everything ready to go for next.
Yes, and the logic behind it, Aaron and Lynn, is Robert, is this, and I already discussed this with Nicole, is that our next board meeting is the middle of March. We're not going to really get an opportunity to go to the board to get it approved prior, so we could set this up. And what I'm hoping for is that in the monthly newsletter that goes out through the township on their website, is that we could start promoting this in October, September, or well, maybe September's a little too soon, but October, November for sure, so that we could get a good turnout for it. And the only other thing that would come up is that we may have to get another trash can, and or as Robert and I found out when we were doing this some time ago, they did require some type of fencing at one time, but we could get the cheap orange stuff. And, you know, if someone else wants to volunteer with me, great, but we could probably go up there and put it up ourselves to save some money. The other thing that would come up question-wise that Nicole and I were thinking about when we were exploring this, that the township will have to answer is, you know, like right now the gates are closed. Will we be able to go in there after dark? Is lighting needed? What's, you know, what are the safety hazards? That's why Nicole wants us to come out there and walk it depending on what site we use. That's all. So I'll let you guys know what I'm going to do. Walk it with Nicole. And if you guys can make it, great. If you can't, then I'll take some notes and try to even take some pictures for you so that at the meeting you can see what I was looking at. So it might help you.
I got video from friends the other day who were actually sledding with their whole family.
Oh, really?
Yeah, who just sent me video. We're like, hey, you want to come out here and go sledding? I'm like, oh, that's ironic.
Oh,
so
cool.
people are already using it.
Awesome.
Yep.
Cool. All right. 4C maintenance plan. I was a little delayed in my acting on that. It's been sent to John, asking him basically who he wants us to work with on reviewing it and moving forward with it. Our schedules have not lined up, so I don't have an actual result from that to share at this point, but it has been shared with him. So unless anybody had thought about it more or wanted to change anything, we're kind of in a holding pattern there. I don't see a problem still at this point, having everything ready to go for, that stuff starts up for the spring. So I think we'll still meet that deadline. Okay. 4D, Atchison Park land control. I guess I probably should have brought part of that up with Nicole too while she was here, but I don't think we've had any development here, and maybe this is something we move into our parking lot area of potential future items, because I don't know when there'll be any motion here. It's just the idea that I'd like to get a better idea for us of what areas are actually whose and what the conditions are for use. So,
Robert, can I chime in here real quick?
Yep.
I had asked Nicole about that the other day when we were talking, and she said basically everything that's inside, like, you pulled up a map, I can show you, basically everything that's raised is theirs.
Yeah.
Where it's all flat is ours. And she said, here, I'll show you on a map, and she did, and it made sense. Like, for example, where the ball diamonds were put, that's virgin.
Yeah. No, that makes sense and everything. It just, I can't believe there's not some sort of documentation out there that clearly says, I mean, my understanding of it is that we basically have a surface lease of a lot of the land, and there's got to be a document somewhere that specifies the actual boundaries for that. And
well, you saw what it took to try to get.
No, I'm not saying it's easy or readily accessible. I just, as much as yes, for practical purposes, in most cases, it's probably good enough to say raised areas are theirs, flat areas are ours. I would feel much more comfortable seeing something that was in writing.
I understand.
So, but like I said, I don't see that moving ahead very quickly anytime soon. So I would say at this point, yeah, we'll move it off of our regular agenda, and just when, if progress is made, we can bring it back. So let's see, what we're about an hour and a half in. Everybody doing okay? Do we need like a 5-minute break, or?
I'm good.
Good.
No, I just want to get through it. That's all.
All right. 4E then, we're getting into our updates on our little projects from last month. So the playground equipment or play structures or whatever you want to call it. Take it away, Erin.
Sure. So I was able to find about 6 different vendors. It took me a while to get in contact with people. I know that circumstances with COVID and lack of administrative services are really diminished in capacity at this time, especially because it's off season as well. No one's going to be breaking ground anytime soon. So I have 6 particular specific vendors that I know will service, install, and have the actual product available. There are 2 ways to do this. There's a quick ship, or there are custom builds. The prices range literally from like 10 grand to 200 grand. So my question is, do we have any idea how much money? And I know that it's going to be, this is a sort of a lost cause at even asking this question, but do we have any idea where I could even start as a baseline to say, here's model number, C, and let's go from there. Have a rep come out and meet me at this specific location or a roundabout location. The other issue that we might have is that the install seems to be just as expensive as the equipment itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is going to get into the grants proposals as well.
Right.
So this is kind of a caveat to what's coming next.
Do you want reactions to those questions right now, or do you want to keep going first?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay. So on the install portion, there is something that most of the vendors call community build.
Great.
And I don't know if all of them offer it or only some of them do, but the idea is basically that if you can get a group of people to come and volunteer and do this, they can send basically a smaller crew that is more directing your volunteers on the assembly. So it ends up saving some money. I don't know how much cheaper it actually is. If we want to know kind of some things about how it went or not when we get to that point, I do. I know they used a community build as for the installation of one of the last play structures that they put in at Island Lake, and I can ask the park manager there if he would be willing to come or just send us a little opinion of how it went for them, whether they would do it again, whether it was worth the savings or.
Sure. Yeah, it was mentioned briefly in one of the discussions that I had, and it seemed to be a pretty substantial savings from what I gathered. So it's certainly worth a shot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the installation part.
Correct. So then the equipment,
yeah. So ranges,
right?
I guess as a one reference point, I will say that when we were looking at having I guess you could call it a grant, though it was probably more accurate to call it a donation, that ended up not going through when we were dealing with the 11 Mile Park. There was an organization that was basically willing to contribute. I want to say it was about $200,000 towards a play structure installation. And so some of the sets of things that we had designed through one of the vendors for that site were targeting around that budget. As you, I'm sure, saw, it's most of the stuff is modular, and you can go low, you can go really high. The current budget, nothing was set aside for this year for a large project like that.
Okay.
And so I don't have a number to tell you to say run with this, because it would all be an open discussion unless it's a very small number, which at that point, I don't know what kind of equipment you can really get for $10,000. It's like, a piece costs that.
Right.
And
they're for like ages 2 to 5.
Right.
Yeah,
It's like you could get, what, $10,000, maybe you get like a seesaw kind of a thing. It's
I would think you would have to go at least minimum around 50.
Yeah,
to get something that's going to hit the target ranges of what we want to do in our master plan and the public. I'm thinking that the minimum you're going to have to go is about 50,000.
Right. And the other thing that I thought was interesting is that a lot of the structures, they have the criteria of saying, this will entertain, 30 kids or 25 kids at a time. So I think you're probably around that ballpark. Okay.
So like I said, it's all what we can do here is we can put together our plan and our recommendation, and then we see where the appetite is from the board.
Okay.
But my gut reaction would be to look around maybe more like a 150.
Okay.
And I think the 200 is probably a little steep for people's appetites at the moment.
Sure.
But that's just me.
So 150 without installation, or 150 with? I know, right?
So
we could do this 3 ways. We could do 100, and then 125 maybe with the community build. 150, I don't know. Those are just ballpark numbers, but even probably more like 80, 100, 150. I'm not really sure. So what are you?
No, you're on the right track there. Ultimately, we have to think about this in terms of the total budgeted amount. So it's not, when I say 150, I mean 150 for the project.
Perfect. Okay.
But again, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
And you got to see what you can get for that. And if there's something that it's like, I don't know, where their price breaks are at, or if, if there's this really cool thing that we just have to have,
Yeah, there's a lot of options.
you sell it. And
there are so many options out there.
there's so much stuff.
It's amazing.
There's a lot of fun stuff out there.
Yeah, I know. Okay, good. So that at least that gives me another idea.
Yeah.
So I have the 6 vendors. I'll
right.
go with the 150 total budget. We'll put it together.
The other piece of advice I would give you on this, I guess, is to look for at least some of the pieces being specific, like ADA stuff, or things
sure.
that fall into what I believe the terminology being used right now is inclusive play.
Sure. Yeah.
And not only because it's the right thing to do, but also it definitely helps for making a project be eligible to receive different funding sources.
Absolutely. It's actually all I was looking at, so no problem. Great. So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll get on it. Okay.
Yeah, cool. Lynn, Chris, any questions, comments for Erin?
The other day, Erin and I were talking a little bit about it, and I directed her to you on finding some of the equipment, and I know she's having a rough time. So it sounds like you persevered through that, Erin. Great job. And I would tell you, great. I agree with how you're going to handle it now. I was also going to bring up the community belt that Robert spoke about, and go from there. But I would present the packages like he had said. So yeah, good job. I mean, I know it's hard sometimes to get that stuff. Trust me, I do.
Yeah. And usually they'll be willing to throw together a couple different proposals for you of like, here's your high, medium, and low spend ranges of
sure
whatever that spread might be for each. I don't know.
What we learned too from the 11-mile Milford Park, Erin, the closer you get to this, the more serious they start seeing you pursuing this. You might get something thrown in at a discount or that, it's kind of sounds weird, but it might happen. You might just, be prepared is what I would tell you.
Right. It's just it's competitive bidding. So
yeah. So.
And that's the other piece too, is that it's usually, I believe, the township likes to have multiple bidder options at spends of this level. So
of course. Okay. Yep, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. For F, the bike ramp / skills course, I'm not sure what to call it exactly.
So update you guys. Basically what happened is when I was tasked with this, I told you I'd look into it. Erin was kind enough to send over a link to Groveland? Yes, thank you. Site. I called there. I spoke with the lady after making a couple calls. She said that that's a BMX location. I said, well, what do you mean? She says, well, these ramps that are set up over here and the course is set up for BMX racing. And she says it's quite large in the United States. It's a sport that's up and coming. They actually have the world races at that course. So long story short, she had given me a gentleman named Gavin. His father built the ramp at Waterford. And Gavin and I talked, and I said, well, what organization do you belong to? He goes, I don't. I said, well, what do you mean? I says, it's my understanding you have an organization. He says, no. He goes, I bike ride and belong to a lot of other biking community things that are set up. And I said, what do you mean things? And he says, well, we're not really a club, but we get together and do things. And I said, oh, okay. He didn't have any suggestions for anything to go in any direction. So I called back to the lady that I spoke to, Sharon, and she had said that she had reached out to another group. That group was actually an affiliate through a bike shop down in Monroe. and they sell the mountain bikes and that, specialty bikes and that. And I talked to him, and he says that it's not really clubs. There's not a company out there. It's kind of, he says the sport's weird in the sense that you just design a course over what type of bike that you're going to use, basically. And he had mentioned a couple of courses around the area. For example, he said if you just want leisurely riding, nothing hard, just good exercise, he brought up Kensington, and that made a lot of sense what he was saying. If you wanted to, if you're a young kid and you're into BMX, he mentioned the site you sent over, Aaron. So basically, at this point, I made a couple more calls to some of these organizations that head up these bike ride tournaments and stuff like that. And I haven't at this time got a call back from anybody. I did, in good faith, send out an email stating where I was at with it. I did talk to Aaron about this, and I did talk to Robert just the other day about it, expressing my frustration with not being able to get real far ahead on this. So at this time, currently, I'll sum it up by saying that I don't know what direction I'm going to go in, and I'm hoping by next month, if I'm still stuck, or even before next month, I'll pop off an email and let you guys know. And maybe if someone has an idea, I'll run with it. But as of right now, that's the update. Did we lose you, Robert? Okay.
Sorry, no, I just remembered I might have actually had a paper from a vendor on this, and I was just rifling through my stuff trying to find it.
I think you mentioned
and
it.
I did.
Yeah.
I did find it here. So I have, it's called the American Ramp Company out of Joplin, Missouri. I think MO is Missouri, right? Or is that Montana?
MO's Missouri.
Okay, so yeah. So they do skate parks, bike parks, pump tracks, and what they call bicycle playgrounds. Oh, well, let me see if I can find it.
It's amazing.
Sorry, give me 1 second here.
While you're doing that, Robert, I will say I did call Westland guys because they used to have a bike ramp over there, and it's not a bike ramp. It's actually a roller skate, a rollerblade and skate park. When they closed down and expanded it about 8 to 10 years ago, they cleared out some of the bike parts for people to ride their bike through there. He said mainly young kids, and opened it up to mainly what you're being shown here, the skateboarding stuff. So, you know, that they don't even have bikes over there anymore, he said.
So yeah, that's that. But here.
Yeah, that'd be cool right there. That's
So
what
this is what they call their bicycle playgrounds. And I forgot about that. This was at last year's MParks conference. I talked to one of their reps for a little bit about this, and yeah, these are some of their concepts are just,
those are amazing. That's exactly what I was looking at.
Yeah, they're like, I mean, like all the kids just like boom, they're going around whatever, and they can be set up with like, you know, different little routes and different skill levels in the different areas. So it's all very very neat. I mean, some of it you can go, you know, mainly like, you know, dirt and wooden elements, which would probably be better for us as opposed to some of these poured pieces. But that's their bike play.
Robert, can you send this over to me so that I can call them tomorrow?
Yeah, and so they have their different ramps and things. They do the, you know, the design work and the whatever. I don't know how clearly this is coming in with the video moving on there, but
it's perfect.
This is exactly what we were talking about, wasn't it, Aaron?
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is
this
exactly
is
what I envisioned.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know who else is out there that does this or what the costs are versus, you know, trying to do it ourselves. I mean, on one hand, you could probably say, oh well, you know, okay, it wouldn't be that hard to find, you know, somebody to build a ramp, or, maybe it becomes an Eagle Scout project, but maybe it's worth the cost to do the commercial solution for, I don't know if it would be any better for the insurance or anything like that, but there's multiple avenues we can take with this. The only other thing I would say at this point is, just so you guys know, the other thing that gets talked about when you get into the bike things are what they call these pump tracks. And
Aaron, this is what I was talking about that they told me about right here.
so
Where
these
there's
are
multiple units.
Yeah, these are modular, so they can, I want to say they may actually have been the vendor for one of the Oakland parks, which I'm surprised, I guess, that they could probably give us examples of some of their sites, but the idea with the pump tracks, I think, is that basically, like, you're not pedaling, it's like almost like a perpetual motion thing of just like,
Right.
by the downs, you're kicking up your speed, and I don't know a whole lot about it. I just know it's like a trend or something. So I'm making myself sound old right now, but the kids these days with their pump tracks and their whatcha-doozits. Anyway, so I'll send you guys this, but if not, just, it's this American Ramp Company is the one that I got it with. And I do have, like, they have some examples on like the flyer that I got from them at the thing that showed, some sample designs with cost ranges from 17,500 up to 60,000. Oh, sorry, up to 90,000 for the fancy one. But I mean, I'm sure there's a wider range and there's a lot of factors that go into that, but just to, put numbers in people's heads about a rough idea of what we could be looking at for something like this. But I just think it's great where I wish this would show up on my, oh well. But this, like, even this $90,000 one, like, no, we wouldn't do everything in that picture, because I don't think we would put $90,000 into this, at least to start, until we saw whether people were using some of the elements. But a lot of it looks like, it's kind of modular in nature, so we could expand it over time, but it's largely a dirt setup and, mounding up different earth areas and then placing these modular pieces into it. So again, it's a great thing where this can go right up on top of the hill in an area that we can't otherwise build anything that has to have a permanent foundation. So
Perfect.
All right, end rant for that. Back to the thing here. Yeah, so I guess, Chris, I don't know if you want to reach out to them then. And
yeah, I wrote down the name of the company. I'm going to try to Google it after tomorrow when I get a chance, because I got.
I'll look at the spot where I found this. I might actually have the card for the guy I talked to, but
Okay.
Regardless, I'm sure they'll be happy to talk and help you. With that, any everybody good on that piece? Yep. Okay. All right. So 4G movies in the park. Sorry, I got to switch back to a different group of tabs here. So I tried to go back through, again, brief history. We did have a movies in the park program back when in a prior incarnation of this group, back when I was in high school, and Lisa Blades was kind of the driving force behind this at the time. And we ended up purchasing a package of equipment where we had one of the outdoor screens and projectors and the sound system and everything. The way these things typically work is that you basically have an inflatable frame that goes around and holds up the screen. And then you've got a projector that's conceptually similar to any other multimedia projector you might have, except it has to be a little higher end, usually with just higher brightness. to account for projecting something that big outside from however far away it has to be. I looked back at the notes of, well, sorry, I'm going out of order here. I should say we ran that for some period of time. I don't recall the exact years. I was digging through my emails, but it's a little scattered with how I organized emails from almost 15 years ago. So I'm not sure exactly when we stopped, but we ran it for a while, and eventually what we found was that the equipment had either been damaged or disappeared, and we don't really have much of any of it left that is in a usable condition still. So if we did do this, we'd basically be planning to start over. That said, I looked at the old paperwork that I had at where we had bought our previous package from. And that was a product called Blimp Screen from a company that operated a website called Blimp Sign. And the website is still up, but it's currently advertising a 2018 sale, which tells me that they are not likely still really in this business. I did not spend a lot of time trying to get in touch with them to confirm that, but there are a couple other vendors out there, including one that we had initially made the choice between. Well, the other manufacturer that we were looking at was a company called AirScreen, and they're a European company, I want to say German. And at the time, one of the main reasons that we went with Blimp Screen was the shipping time. It was like a 3-week thing to get one of these AirScreen products. They now have a US distributor. So that's back on the table. But to give you guys an idea of the costs and what would be involved, there's the equipment side of it and the actual running and operation of that, and then there's the content side of it. For the equipment, we've got basically 2 routes. We can buy the equipment, and then we have to either have consistent volunteers or budget to pay someone to set it up and run it. Or we can, Chris, are you talking to us or?
No, guys, that's why
Okay. All right. So you're good. I just wanted to make sure.
My dog she's barking, and I didn't want you hearing it, so I apologize. You're
good. Just given our Zoom issues tonight with people muted or unmuted, I wanted to make sure. So there's the purchase and run it ourselves option, and there are also companies that will rent these things where they'll come in and set it up for you that evening and run the event and pack it all up and take it back with them. Those rental options for that service, you're looking, it seems like $500-600 or so per event. All of these things vary a lot depending upon location, calendar availability, the size of the screen you want, things like that. But just to give you rough ideas, say like $500 or $600 for that rental. Alternatively, the purchasing, we're looking at a minimum of 10,000, I would say. It would likely be between 10 and 20, depending upon how big of a screen we want, what kind of what level of projection and audio equipment we want to go with it. There's a lot of packages that they put together, and then you can obviously customize that with the vendor, but that's just to give us an early ballpark amount of this. So if you figure just the calculation of, you know, the difference between equipment owning and equipment renting, we'd be looking at our break-even point being somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 3 years, I would expect, assuming that we ran one like most weekends during the summer.
Would we want to start out with renting and see how many people actually show up?
That is certainly an option. That's what we're starting to discuss. The other side of this that we haven't talked about yet is the actual content. So when you show a movie outside of your house,
Yeah, okay.
copyright law deems it to be what they call a public performance. And there are a couple companies that handle what they call these non-theatrical public performance licenses. It's Swank is the name of the major player in this arena, and then the second one would be Criterion, I think is the name of it.
Mhm.
I did get some. I did reach out to them, both of them, and got some initial rough numbers. They each represent different studios. Swank has the majority of the studios, but there are some studios that use Criterion as their licensor. And so depending upon the movie, you basically need to go to one or the other. The costs for that vary based on, again, what film you're showing, that being, you know, what studio it came from, how new or old is it, how in demand is it. For example, like, you know, maybe they charge more for showing, you know, scary movies around Halloween, or you know, things like that. And then it also varies based on audience size. And so the benchmark that I couldn't find anything easily on what our attendance was like when we used to do this. So the way that I decided to estimate this was, because they're also, a lot of them are talking right now a lot about the drive-in type events. And I think that's especially attractive given our current pandemic world. And so what I looked at is I counted the size of the parking lot by the pavilion that we would likely do this at. And I used that to come up with a capacity of, that lot has a capacity of about 56 cars. So I just rounded that, and I said for their quote input, I just said, well, let's assume 50 cars or 200 people. And based on those numbers, sorry, this is between two different emails here. I gotta bounce between. For Criterion, we're looking between $325 and $550 per screening based on title, release date, and popularity. And for Swank, you know, same kinds of conditions, in a range of $395 to $450 for most of their things. So on average, you're going to be in that $400 or $500 area, because that's just how it looks. And that's for that approximate 200 cap on your audience. And so again, we'd have to, you know, reevaluate, you know, our audience sizes over time, but just getting rough early ideas here. There is a slight thing that changes there, where obviously, you know, if you commit to a block of however many for a summer or something, they'll give you a little bit of a break. Like Swank was offering at the moment, their thing would be, if we committed to 3 or more movies, they would break it for $350 per movie as the amount. The I guess I'm thinking for budgeting purposes, we think about it as like 400 per movie, just 400 or 450 or something. We are allowed to charge admission if we want to. If you charge admission, then the fee becomes either the amount that they would normally charge, which is like a minimum guarantee, or 50% of our receipts, whichever is greater. So personally, I don't think that we would probably choose to charge, just because, I mean, it's tax dollars ultimately going to support providing this as a service. And I don't know that I'm crazy about charging people then on top of that, but it's certainly something you could discuss. So you're, for the idea of, if like Lynn, you were saying, do we start off with renting and see how it goes?
And then we're talking $900 per movie then.
Right. And the other complication with the rental is that, there's only so many rental screens out there, and every community is going to want it on a Friday night or something. And so we definitely have to plan ahead more for that. But it's something that certainly probably makes sense. When we've talked about this in the past, we've also talked about, if we were to purchase equipment again, we could look at some sort of a partnership with another community, perhaps, or seeing, if, do we want to share it between like, us and the city or something, and say, 1 week it's in McCaddy Park, the next week it's in Atchison, or, something like that.
You could you could say Friday nights it's here and Saturday nights it's there, if it's a place.
Yeah, true. Yeah, any kind of, whatever kind of arrangement like that. I guess I'm just saying, there's a lot of things you could do with this. And like we talked about before, it doesn't have to be just movies. We can use it for, or it could be in conjunction with the movie, maybe before or after them do giant screen karaoke, or, hook up, like esports are growing in popularity. So, maybe we do, some sort of video game tournament on a giant screen in the park. There's a lot of potential things we could do. I also briefly looked at, and I haven't gotten any solid quotes, but the idea definitely intrigued me of there are vendors out there that have basically outdoor LED video walls. So think about basically a Jumbotron kind of a thing. And I'm assuming that the costs would be, I'm guessing 2 to 3 times as much. I don't have solid numbers. I haven't gotten a quote from anyone yet. But the advantage to that would be that you can use it anytime.
Right.
You don't need it to be, because even with the brightest projector on the market, you still can't do anything before dusk.
Right.
And
I think maybe what we should do is we should maybe try renting it and seeing what kind of interest we actually get, and then based on that we can decide, okay, do we want to have something that can be seen other times of the day? Do we want to expand karaoke? Do we want to expand video games? Kind of run a trial run and see how it goes to decide how we want to invest.
mm-hmm.
So I think the important component here is that the South Lyon Theater has just announced they're closing as well.
Yep.
Oh, I hadn't seen that yet.
Yeah, I got the notice yesterday.
Yeah.
All right, that's interesting, because we actually, I don't remember if we actually ever did it, but we had talked at one point in the past about working with them. I think it was several owners ago, because they've gone through a few, but
Yeah.
Of being like a screening venue for, they were working on some sort of a film festival thing. But no, that's interesting, because that was part of my struggle the other night as I was going through this, was I was thinking about, like, how interested are people, because the last time we did this, like I said, we started it, it was 15 years ago. That was when Netflix was still, you get a DVD in the mail.
Right.
And so part of it is, I do wonder, as much as I like the idea of, a bunch of people together in the park watching stuff. I don't know. It's hard for me to gauge whether families would still want to do this versus they just sit in their living room and watch whatever content you could imagine.
Well, the other demographic that we're going to hit here is not just the families, but I think high school age.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something that, you know, people are saying, we're going to sound old again. Those kids don't have anything to do.
No,
right?
And that was the survey showed that was the demographic that was really underserved.
Yep.
You know, what can these kids do? Because they don't have a lot of money, right? And I know what I used to do. We used to live near the Berkeley Theater, and they had dollar movies every weekend. So guess what we did? No matter what the movie was, because it was $1, right?
And that's where, I mean, when you say like the dollar movie thing, that intrigues me too, because it's like, you know, maybe we don't do a, you know, charge like admission, whatever, but maybe, you know, we set it up as some sort of a fundraiser of like a suggested donation, or, you know, maybe we partner with some different groups on different things. The other piece to this is like bathroom wise, the location that I'm thinking of, we would probably need to bring in porta potties. I didn't get porta potty quotes yet, but it's probably not terribly expensive in relation to the other pieces of this. And then concessions is another interesting component to this, where in the past we talked about, you know, like, okay, maybe you let a Girl Scout troop come in and sell the popcorn and they keep whatever they make, or another thing that's food trucks.
Yes,
I think would be great with a food truck type event.
Yes,
coming into it. We can do, again, working with, you know, possibly working with the DDA or just directly with some of the businesses. You know, maybe some of our restaurants want to come in and do a little catering setup where they've got food going for that.
Yeah, and even if you charged, you know, $5 a car,
right?
You know, something nominal but beneficial for the entire community.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great.
So it sounds like you guys generally like the idea, so it's worth pursuing.
Yep, I would pursue.
I agree.
What do we think about, you know, do a rental thing to try it? Does that sound like the right path?
I think so. I think we should do a rental thing and you know, propose that to the board that we would like to rent it and show X number of movies over the summer. And see if we
I maybe this is compressing a timeline too much, but do we want to wait until the summer and plan a whole summer of rentals? Or given the drive-in option, what would you guys think about trying to set up a rental drive-in setup before the summer? And then depending upon interest, it's possible that we could even look at a purchase for this summer still. Maybe I'm being too aggressive, but
yeah, for the rental drive, and are people using phones for sound? What are they doing?
So they actually have a short range. The typical way this is run is it's a short range FM transmitter. So you pull in and you tune to whatever station, and there's a couple different ways they do it. That's what I think that's the most common that I've seen. But there is also the option of, you know, streaming it to your phones or whatever, or you can still have speakers going, so you can, like during the summer ones, I think some places will do, you know, they'll have the speakers set up, but they'll also put it over the radio. So, you know, if you want to have your windows closed and your air on or something, you can get it that way too. There are also ones which I don't think would be good during COVID, but they hand out basically headphones that are wirelessly into this system, which I've seen those billed as one way to do the drive-in. The other way they've billed that is like if you're in an area where you want to do this event, but it's late and you have noise concerns.
We don't.
But the location we're looking at is, I think, far enough away from residential that, which I guess I should clarify. You guys know where I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
The pavilion where we were talking. You know, the ice rink would go on one side of it.
Yep.
And it's got, which it's a great one thing that's better now than when we did this before. When we did this before, I don't remember if the pavilion was actually there yet. If the pavilion was there, it definitely didn't have power, and so we had to have a generator, and it was interesting with, you know, the noise. You had to either put it far enough away, or we had this, I don't remember if we actually bought it or if we were just thinking about buying it, but there was a box that we could basically put the generator in to insulate the noise some.
Yeah, I like the idea of running towards it, you know, head on and trying it out with a drive-in.
Okay.
I want to get out of the house. I think that a movie's perfect at this point. I mean, you could at least gauge interest, community interest.
Yeah.
But really going to need to promote it.
Yes, and there are, so that's the other piece, that there are some restrictions with the way these things are licensed.
Of course.
So because basically the distribution agreement that
Right.
companies have is you can't compete with the theater, basically.
Right.
And so part of that is taken care of by the fact that you pretty much won't get any current run movies through this. But additionally to that, like that I don't think you're allowed, there's certain restrictions, like you can't do like radio and television advertising and things like that. Sometimes they talk, obviously we wouldn't be doing that anyway, but there's things like sometimes they don't want you to actually even use like the specific film in some of the marketing materials, which that one is a little weird, and I've seen it go both ways, but
Right. Sure.
So but yeah, no, we definitely need to advertise it.
Sounds great.
So what do you think? We should probably do like some sort of like what was that movie, like Contagion or something? Is that a good first film?
28 days later.
Yeah. Yes. No.
Right.
You can do the Planet of the Apes, because everybody, you know, gets the disease at the end.
Yeah. No, so I guess so given that, I have a couple vendors that I could look at for doing a trial. How soon would you guys want to do that? And then we need to start thinking about what film.
April would be good.
April.
April is what I would target.
Okay. All right.
Because I would think that would give us the time to pull a plan together and to present it.
Cool. Okay. So I'm gonna compress. Sticking with that April, I'm gonna say, how comfortable are you guys making a recommendation tonight? Because that would allow me to get it on, if I get something to Michelle in the next day or two, I can get something on the March Board of Trustees agenda.
Perfect.
If it's after that, we might have an issue.
Okay.
So given that, I'm trying to find my one rental thing here to give us some numbers. The max on the movie license, it looks like we wouldn't be over 550. On the rental, let's see, this one screen size was 575, the other screen size was 920, and this other one was Sorry, give me a second. I wasn't really expecting to jump right into this, but I think it makes sense given what you guys are saying. Rental prices. So for the drive-in package, that's where it's a little unknown because most of the posted prices are a standard thing. For example, this one of the vendors has their epic drive-in package is $19.99, but that is a 40-foot screen that is billed for cars and crowds of up to 1,000. That's bigger than what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And let's not set us up for failure when we don't provide that on the next.
yeah. I don't want to go too big and then
No.
if we were to buy one, not be able to match it.
Right.
This one, their premier level here, crowds of up to 250 with a 21-foot screen. That looks like 600 versus their backyard tier, which they say is crowds of up to 75 with a 16-foot screen. The other one, sorry, one second. New rental packages. Yeah.
I live in a house with the dog and three family members, and you live in a house, you said, with 10 cats, 10 dogs, and 10 kids. And every time we have our meetings, I'm amazed. I don't see anybody bugging you or hearing.
Who, me?
Yeah, I had to mute my screen like
I
10
saw a cat.
Yeah. So 2 kids came and gave me a kiss goodnight. There's a cat, a puppy next to me. There's a dog. Wait, right down here.
Holy smokes.
A very large dog. That's my my English Mastiff. And they're all sound
That is
asleep
big.
right now, right? They all go to bed at 8:30.
Well, I don't know if you guys can hear, but my wife yells at me sometimes in these meetings. That's why I mute it sometimes. She'll tell me she's got to be up early, so she'll shut up. You're being loud. All right, sorry. Something dawned on me while he was looking that up. I looked over and I was like, man, for somebody that has so many people.
Yeah, they're all just sound asleep.
Yeah.
We actually
All
have.
right.
Go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. All right. I think I have basically what's your guys' preference between a 16-foot versus a 20 or 21-foot screen, which are being billed as, the one company says up to 75 versus up to 250. The other company says for those same sizes up to 200 versus up to 300.
I would go with the 20-foot screen because also that allows people to socially distance more because they don't have to be as close to see because it's bigger.
Fair. Just for quick pricing comparisons, if we were to purchase a 20-foot screen package, we're looking at starting from 11,600. So it's not substantially more than the 16-foot screen. I don't want to rent something that's bigger than what we can eventually buy.
Right.
So I wanted to check that real quick. So given that, if we're talking about renting that like 20-ish foot screen size, we'd be looking at from 600 from one vendor and the other vendor an actual quick quote of 920. So
we're somewhere.
go with that higher amount, just not knowing what extras would have to be added on to the other one. We're talking about basically a $1,500 test event, if I were to round things.
Yeah, I don't see the township approving that. I'm not trying to be negative.
It could be lower, but
May as well give it a
especially
shot.
when you use the word test.
well, I mean, it's not like we're going into this without any kind of.
You're going in with no data. The
Oh,
data that you have is
We do, I think
We
we
have
have,
data.
we have data.
it's old.
No, we have data from our survey that says that people do want movies.
Yeah, it was something that was in one of the suggestions.
They're going to want to see raw data in the sense of what's the draw. Like, for example, you could say, like for DBAT, for example, we could say, hey, the average draw for a game is this because we have it and it's current. For this right here, like he said, started off saying at the very beginning, he was trying to look up the attendance. We don't have that to support the documentation. So
I can probably, I mean, I can keep digging. I guess
I'm not knocking
And-
the idea. I understand. I'm just
You're-
you
you raise a good point, Chris. This is not, I mean, at this range, it's not a, oh yeah, sure guys, go for it.
right.
We definitely have to.
I mean, I'm not slamming. Don't take it as me slamming you. You're on the board. You've been as many meetings I have over the years.
Mhm.
When you use the word test and you're saying we're looking at this, they're going to ask for more data. Hey, what numbers support it? And when
Right.
you're when they say,
But this,
but
yeah, I mean, this is, I say test because it would be the test to say whether it would be successful enough to justify purchasing a system.
So then, to Lynn's point that she made earlier, why don't we just rent it for a couple times?
Well, that's what this is.
That's what we're doing.
That $1,500 would be one event of renting and putting on the event.
Right.
Wait a minute, I thought this was for the drive-through buy.
No, this is the rental of the drive-through option.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, again, this is just based on the quotes that I got from the form generator.
Can I ask you a question on this,
listed.
Robert?
Yeah.
What, and I remain quiet on this because I got different viewpoints on it. So
That's fine.
my first question is that you said something about working with other locations. I think that'd be a great idea because then we can substantiate the audience more. We know that we can get a draw. The idea that I had was that perhaps if they haven't canceled it due to COVID, perhaps maybe we can reach out to Southline because they do the what's it called, the concerts in the park.
Yep.
They usually start them in April.
Yes.
And it might allow for us to be able to, let's face it, we don't have a good working relationship with them. You know what I mean? So it'd be able to help bridge a gap both for the young and the old to bring somebody there to the park. That way, if the parents, for those kids that have the young kids, they could go play at the park, or the older kids could go walk around or something. But more importantly, what it might do is help bring a bigger draw for the attention that we're trying to generate for this. That's one idea. The other thing I was going to ask you though is there this company that you're working with in that, is there any chance that they can provide any? Would they do I don't know, and I hate to say it this way, would they do it a charitable event one time to see what our draw is, to see if it'd be worth it, or one-time cutthroat package deal where they allow for us to do it at a minimum so we could see if we could get the support for it?
I doubt it. I'm guessing that there's a lot of demand for these things right now, given that it is one of the few things that you could actually pull off like this.
How about the one over in Plymouth? Is this going to be similar to that, the one that they do at Sheldon or back in 14 right there? You know, right next to the McDonald's in front of the hockey arena?
I'm not familiar with that. So
They put up they got two posts. Think of it like that. They pull up the screen, and you come into it, and there's a booth right there. It's probably size of like a football booth where they announce stuff, and they from there they shoot the transmitter over this side to screen 1, this one to screen 2, and this one to screen 3, and they do it that way, and it works rather well. And you could do it in rain, you could do it if it's sunny, and they usually start about 8-9 o'clock. I'm just trying to get an idea in my head of what type of, I mean,
most of these are not weather friendly.
Right. I'm just trying to get an idea how it would look. That's all.
Like the purchase packages, it's basically, you get a projector on a stand pointed at your inflated screen.
HD, the old school one.
Yeah, HD. It's not. I mean, we're not talking like 4K, like cutting edge movie theater. Those projectors are much more expensive. But
They're
the,
gonna realize that. They're in a park.
right. Yeah, I don't think you have that same kind of expectation.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I want the best for our residents.
well, that's good. I mean,
Right, well, you get your checkbook out.
I'm messing. I get it. I was just asking that question because, like, when you say projectors, I'm old, so I'm thinking of like the ancient ones where they were.
I mean, we're not doing a reel to reel thing here. It's
I just wanted to get it.
here, I'll just,
I'm gonna start getting really slap happy soon. It's like 9:30.
yeah,
Yeah.
just so Chris, so that you can see an
Sure,
example.
that's fine. I just wanted to see. Okay, great. That's fine.
This is kind of what a package would look like for purchase.
Great. That sounds. It looks good.
Little stack of your equipment, projector on a stand, inflatable screen. Boom, done. So,
And to
all
your
right.
point, we'd have to lift that screen so people could see it. Correct.
Well,
Yeah.
it's
Ground
it
level.
inflates. It's not. I mean, it's not at the screen part isn't at ground level. There's depending upon the size of the screen part. So the projectable part will start like about a person high.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thanks.
And go up from there. But all right, so given this, we think we want to try this.
Hold on, one more question.
Yeah.
We can do this during COVID, right?
Yeah, that would be.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I mean, that's my thinking would be that, yeah, if we try and do this in April, it's get people out when they've been cooped up and probably still can't really or don't feel comfortable going to a actual movie theater.
And there's no South Lyon Theater anymore, so.
Okay, it's perfect.
So,
Sounds good.
so I guess given, I mean, that 1,500 is a guess. What do we want to say as a not to exceed? Obviously, we're not gonna spend more than what it actually takes, but I don't know how solid those numbers are in terms of quotes. So I guess, what are you guys comfortable recommending? And then whatever the amounts end up being is whatever they end up being, and I'll have to have those worked out to get into the actual board packet this week. But
well, does it matter right now? I mean, you got to find out what the pricing is, anyways. Correct?
Because we have to make the motion today for.
yeah, we have to make a motion tonight to recommend to the board.
So that we
No,
can
we can make
do
a
it by
motion.
April.
Right, we can make a motion tonight to recommend to the board doing this, but we don't need to we don't need to make a motion with price attached.
We don't need an exact amount, but I'd like a ballpark to
Right.
tell them like what we're comfortable with going up to.
How about 2,500?
Okay.
Sure. Yeah,
I mean, I think that's far more than what we'll need,
I
but
agree.
it doesn't hurt to
Right.
have it.
And
See,
then
we could say 1,900. That sounds a little cheaper than 2,000.
right, that's true.
1950.
Whatever you think is appropriate. I mean, whatever to get it moving along is fine. I say 2,500, but that was just
Okay. Sure. All right. Is that a motion?
Motion, I second.
Okay. So we had a motion by Aaron and second by Chris to recommend to the township board to do a rental option of a drive-in to offer a pandemic-friendly activity and gauge interest for a
Movies in the park, for
possible
ongoing movies in the park, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to write down all that wordage, fine. I support it.
Yep. I'll transcribe it from watching this again later. All right.
Yes, I
So,
agree.
all right. Sorry. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Cool. Did I stop sharing? Am I still sharing? Nope.
No, you're not sure.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. Sorry. Okay. And then assuming that goes forward, we'll have to talk about what movie. I don't think it's important to pick that right now.
Correct.
But if we pick it soon, then I might be able to get it into the township newsletter for April. So.
Yeah. We have. I mean, I don't think we need to even do that necessarily in a meeting. We can have some ongoing discussions about film choices. The next item, 4H, overnight or extended closing time events. Basically, I looked into the ordinance and there are allowances for this to happen. It's just basically that it's closed at 10 p.m. unless something else exists to the contrary. So if there's a special event permit or I believe it was worded something like, or organized recreation department activity. So there's not a legal hurdle to if we wanted to do that. I don't know that we really need to look at specifically what to do. My first thought is just, the next time a big astronomical event comes around, maybe we just publicize the fact that, hey, we're going to leave the gate open. Feel free to come up and take a look.
Sounds good.
So 4I, communication plan.
So I wrote up a little bit of what we have done and sent it out to the board to take a look at it as a draft. My thought is that it would go into the township newsletter, which I've been told that if I get it in quickly, it could probably go into the next one.
Yeah, it's usually about a week before the end of the month, I think, that Catherine likes to get everything in.
That's what I was told. So what I also found out is they post these newsletters both on the township Facebook and they post it on the Twitter. So that would be a good way to make sure that any of our messages go out in a couple of different ways that the township supports.
Okay. I read through it once. I didn't read through it again to do like a true proofread, but
and just, you can make some markups and send it to me. I think I'm missing an of or something. I realized when
oh yeah, I do remember reading something like that.
I realized I was missing something because I had changed tenses. I had changed some wording and I'm like, oh crud, I already sent it out and I'm missing like of or an and or something. I can't remember what it was.
I'd like to ask a question, Lynn. I thought that the task at hand for you was not so much determining what we're going to put in the newsletter, but maybe I'm wrong, finding avenues for us to get the information out there.
Well, I was under the impression that, we were going to, that if we had something we wanted to communicate, because we had talked about wanting to make sure that we talk about the survey and the plan, that I was supposed to also be writing something up.
I think this was definitely part of it. I like, that we're going to send something out there and talk about what's been going on, though I think it is important that we also build up a plan of, okay, well, what are our other options for methods to communicate, and some sort of an idea of maybe, like what kinds of things do we want to say? Is there some sort of frequency we should try and have? I don't know, something like that, but that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I figured we would probably do something, maybe quarterly, because it usually takes us a while to get something rolling that would be newsworthy. But at least I know, currently this is the stuff we're working on. And, when we talk about, that we are going to do the movie, we can make sure that that's out there too, as we have things to communicate. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess it's not so much a schedule, but what other venues can we use beyond the newsletter and the website? So.
Right. And this goes out, via Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah.
Township Facebook. So. And according to the survey results we get back, most of the stuff they look at says that they either look at the website, which this gets posted on the website, or they look at social media. So that kind of covers those bases.
Yep. I think I sent you the contact info stuff, right? Did you end up getting in touch with Melanie or anybody?
Yep, I spoke to Melanie because I was trying to figure out where on the website you can actually find the newsletter.
Oh yeah, it gets buried sometimes.
Yeah, so I found it on there, and then they gave me instructions on how I could actually subscribe, because I was like, that wasn't very intuitive either. So you can actually subscribe to the newsletter as well.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, good start. I guess maybe, I don't know, in the next couple days here, if anybody wants to do any proofreading, I guess let's send it back to you, and then whatever we've got at the end of whatever the deadline is, send it over.
I made edits today and I can't find them. I'm so tired.
It's okay.
Yeah, I made a few edits. I'll look at it.
You replied to it, Aaron, and reattached it. Did you reattach one with your edits, or was it just the same? Oh,
That's
okay, and it's here. Okay.
Well, did you? You must not have used a red line then.
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't open it. I assumed you were maybe just reattaching it so it stayed accessible in the conversation, but
at this point, who knows, right?
Yeah. Fair. But we can work through that in the next couple days here.
Okay.
Yeah, did you do a track changes on it? Because I didn't see any markups.
I don't know. I did it quickly in the middle of other things, and I sent it back over, so I can certainly take a peek again. There are just a couple little things. I was going to shorten up the. We received 133 survey responses. That whole line of information, just to keep it short and simple. I was just going to say, results as follows, but that's just because I like short and simple.
Mm-hmm.
And then yes, there's like an at, and then there was an of someplace, but it felt great. So.
Okay.
The other thing I think I put in there at the meetings occur on the third Tuesday of every month. I think I changed that to pursuant of any changes, or not in that wording exactly,
right,
but sometimes, right.
Pursuant of holidays.
Unless otherwise, I think it was unless otherwise posted.
That's a good change.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
All right. Sorry, I know this is going long, but I think we've had some good stuff tonight. So, I'm going to say we're going to move on. 5A grants.
Let's just put it like this: we can't do anything till. I mean, I can look into stuff, but it's.
Well,
I'm not trying to sound negative, but it's just pointless if I got to go through John and everybody else.
There's a lot more to this. I know we're kind of long, so I'm not going to talk about all the various different grants that are out there, but I did send you guys the grant presentation. If you haven't gotten a chance to look at that, I would recommend it. But ultimately, where we sit as far as the DNR grants specifically, we are now valid, but the application deadline for this cycle is April 1st. So what that means is that if we were to want to do any of these things, we would need to decide tonight, basically, what project we want to pursue for a grant. And then we would need to work either ourselves or likely with McKenna and whoever else from the township to put together that application. We would need to hold some sort of public input session on it. And then it would also need to be approved by the township board prior to April 1st, which at this point means we'd be looking at basically having probably a special meeting for us in the beginning of March to review and get public input, whatever. And then we would be looking at a late March special meeting for the Board of Trustees to do a final approval of the application so that it could be submitted by April 1st, because it has to be in by midnight on the 1st. And the April board meeting is on the 5th. So that's the timeline we'd be working with. I talked with Brian about this for a while today. It is not impossible. It is aggressive, and we would have to have something picked and think that it's a good shot. There's multiple grants that this would apply to. The main ones that we'd be looking at are either the the Natural Resources Trust Fund grant or the Recreation Passport grant. The trust fund is usually bigger projects. There's a little more documentation involved. The previous things that we've done with that lately have been our applications for the 11 Mile and Milford Road Park. Discussing with Brian, we kind of agreed that I don't think that makes sense to resubmit at this point because there's fundamental issues still to be resolved with that park's proposal that I don't think it would be worth the time and expense of submitting that grant at this point.
Well, Robert, hold on. There was other grants though that didn't have a timeline. Why it was a few, I thought that we could pursue those and worry about the big ones later on. And again, without going into it tonight, the idea behind it was that Miss Carlock had said that that a lot of that money is available. So that was something that
most of the, yes, there are other grants out there in terms of, there are grants from all over the place. What I'm talking about is just the DNR grants.
Right.
And all but I think one of the DNR grants that we would be considering have an April 1st deadline. So the smaller one, the one that I think is worth kind of thinking about here for a moment is the Recreation Passport grant. That's a relatively new grant. It was put together with using revenue from the Recreation Passport, which is the whole tab on your license plate thing that replaced the state park stickers. It changed the way the funding is distributed and everything. But that is targeted at smaller projects ranging from $7,500 to $150,000. It has a little less crazy of an application. And I'm of course open to any other ideas, but Brian and I discussed two possible applications that we think we might be able to pull off for this. Those are Safety Town and or a play structure addition. So Safety Town, I'm not sure if you guys have, if Aaron and Lynn have been exposed to this before, but it is a concept that Patty Carconi, the treasurer, it's long been one of her dream projects. Conceptually, it's a miniature city for, I want to say it's like preschool age targeted at, that they go and they do all like different learning about like traffic safety and like, fires and police. I don't know exactly. I'm not the best one to advocate for it, but it's something that would be built, and one of the sites was looking at behind the fire station, kind of to the side of where the baseball fields are. Or there was another proposal to use one of the other township pieces of property near Mill River, but the idea, it's basically a series of pathways and these little miniature buildings. And the amount that was this was something that the board had put into the budget for this year to try and work on, the Board of Trustees. And it's something that we could potentially do for this. Brian and I ran through the grant criteria today and gave ourselves a score based on what we think we could pull together in that timeline. And we're right on the cusp of where we would be able to get an award. We'd have to strive to make some improvements in some of the documentation of it, but it's a 25% minimum match grant. So it becomes a question of, if we spend less than whatever amount to prepare the grant and we get it, then it makes sense in this case. The other project that we thought could be appropriate for this would be the playground stuff for adding that 5 to 12 bracket structure. Again, like I talked earlier about, like, hey, if you target 150, well, that's the max for this. And like I said, depending upon how aggressive we want to try and be, it's not impossible to do this. And I wanted to make sure that you guys got the opportunity to try for that.
So do you know by any chance the likelihood of, this is a strange question, the likelihood of getting the grant with Safety Town as opposed to the playground equipment?
So
Is there any added value that they're going to look at and say,
Safety
"This community-"
Town is
Yeah.
a cheaper project,
Yep.
most likely. So when you're talking about allocating funds as the DNR, then
Sure.
I guess we might have a slight increase in chance there. But what they do, there's a rubric basically that they go through, and they grade each of the grant applications on whether they meet certain criteria or at what level.
Yeah.
And then you get your total point score for each grant application. Then they rank those grant applications based on the point score and how much money, and they basically keep going down the list, awarding grants in the highest points first order until they run out of money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm oversimplifying a little, but that's basically how it works.
That's the gist of it. I read.
And when we looked at the scores that where they made that cutoff, where they ran out of funds last year, it was about 180 points on their scoring. And Brian and I estimated that Safety Town, with the condition that our rough guess is that we would score at least 160, 165, I think, is what we gave ourselves,
Okay.
as what we were confident we could pull together in that timeline. As a stretch goal, we could probably improve some of the things. It prioritizes certain things like universal design and accessibility or sustainability. And so, if we were able to add in, say there's paved areas. So if we add in a rain garden or something, that could boost our sustainability score, things like that we could feasibly do in the timeline. The other advantage to this is that since it is a project that the township has already expressed interest in pursuing, they would be more willing to probably commit to doing the application, and the work that would go into it wouldn't necessarily be wasted. Though I could say the same thing about the play structure, in that if we're looking at getting a play structure, we've got to do a lot of the same work anyway.
Sure.
And it's totally fine if you guys say, you know what, we're going to pass on this cycle and we'll start working on the next cycle. That's fine, but I didn't want to make that decision for the group and not give us the opportunity to try and go for that.
Putting the time that I have into it, there's actually more grants than just even that, than what we're discussing. Like, for example, when I told her about us tearing out our ball diamonds and putting something in over there, they do stuff where we can, they do other things. I don't think that none of us at this point are prepared to move forward with anything. They do, as far as the Safety Town goes, we line itemize that every year in the budget, so that if the township wanted to pursue it anyways, they could, because they had the money set aside, even separate from the Parks Advisory Board budget. So grant or no grant, they can move forward with it. It's been there for a long time. With that said, I would feel more comfortable as a moving forward without participating in this cycle. I don't want to rush anything. I don't think none of us are prepared to move forward with this. I mean, it's, I got 4 or 5 hours in researching this since last month, and I'm still confused by a number of things on it.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious to hear what other things that you saw that we could apply for from the DNR that don't have that April 1st deadline, because
why it was limited. There wasn't as much. There were such things as, for like what I was saying, like, for example, the ball diamonds, according to Ms. Carlock, she said that there's a new acquisition land development. There is also for existing, if the projects were smaller for the grant monies, there's also existing stuff that you can add or enhance she called it something. I forget what it was called.
So that's, I mean, the recreation passport grant is the one that's most targeted at redevelopment.
Right, and she brought that up too.
And that's why I say the play structures for that as possibly being a good scoring item, because we're essentially replacing equipment that we used to have that had reached its end of life.
Again, I would just feel more comfortable doing the next cycle.
So that was actually, Robert, the grant that I was looking at when I started looking into prices,
Mhm.
realizing how expensive they were and looking at grants. That was the exact grant that I started researching, which is why I knew a little bit of what
Right.
the details were. I personally say just go for the grant, but that's just me because I figured
Right.
why not? If the township, if the trustees, they're gonna be on board. I don't care which way it goes, either Safety Town or the equipment. You're still providing a service to the community, and if the money's there, grab it. I just don't see why not. I know it's work, right? But
Yeah.
that's just my take on it.
All right. The other, I guess the thing to bear in mind and what makes me want to go for it and not wait is because these things are inherently slow moving once you submit your application. Like I don't know if the rec passport grant has a slightly faster cycle or not, but if it's anything like the trust fund grant, it'll be December before they, come out with their decisions of what projects they're going to fund. And so then you're looking at the next year, if not later, for actual construction.
Right. And we might not even get it.
True.
So we might be starting all over again.
Yeah.
That's all the more reason is to wait because of the fact, look, I spoke my piece. I'll leave it alone.
If
you guys want it, great.
If we were to go ahead with one, do you guys have a preference between Safety Town or the play structure?
I prefer to go with the play structure.
I mean, honestly, I would say the play structure too. It really, because of the survey that we did, I say play structure because of that age 5 to 12. It's, why we did the survey.
Yeah. No, I hear it. It's also
that said, Safety Town has value too. And I understand that if, I know Patty, and if it's something that she's wanted to do for a long time, I feel that way too. So I get that.
I get that, but nothing came back on the survey that people wanted that.
True. I didn't even know about it, but I just read a little bit about it, and it seems, again, it's targeted for younger kids. Yeah, I would say play structure, but it's totally up to you guys. I don't really.
All right.
Either one, it's providing a service to the community, so I don't care.
So I guess, again, because this moved so quick, I have your guys' input now. I don't think we need to make a decision tonight. Let's say I will follow up with Brian and possibly Patty and some other people and try and gauge interest, because again, if the township is not comfortable with actually submitting the grant, then the whole thing is kind of a moot point. And
sure.
So I'll try and gauge that, and then if it sounds like they're willing to do it, then we will look at having another meeting of us, and we'll pull together and yeah, I guess we'll keep in touch, and we'll play this as it goes.
Sounds good.
Okay. And like I said, I would encourage you guys to just kind of start looking into not just the DNR grants, but just other things in general. Just always looking at different funding sources for the projects that we're thinking about. So
yeah, I just registered for I don't know, some website. I'll send it out if I can. I'll find it again. But it basically updates you. You found some specific things that you're looking for, and it'll update you and send you notifications for grants that become available.
Okay, that sounds
yeah.
Good thing to share.
There's always search engine.
Yeah. All right. I think that gets us far enough that we can wrap up.
Oh my God, thank you.
I'm sorry.
To adjourn.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. What is this? We've got
Are you awake? Did you wake up?
10:02.
Your alarm go off?
10:02. What?
Talking to John, making sure his alarm went off. I want to make sure he's